Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to volumes 13 to 15 of Mushoku Tensei's light novel series, where me and Jarkey Bacon are reading through this series, me for the second time, and Jarkey Bacon for the first time. And right now is an exciting video, because we have finally passed the anime, but Bacon is finally reading some new stuff that he's never seen before. So Bacon, introduce yourself.
Hello, I am the latest cult joiner of the MT gang, along with Ari here. I don't know any other MTers. Carl does, but he's not a real MTer. And I'd like everybody to give Ari a standing ovation because he's currently awake in the morning giving you guys this content, because this is the narrow window in which I can record before I move and Ari can record after he moves. So, you know, we've had a few issues and, of course, time, and all that stuff. So Ari's on a laptop, he's doing his mic stuff, so I don't know if we were worried about the static coming through, so I apologize. It may not be as smooth as usual. But yeah.
So just ignore it or leave a comment and complain about it. We love comments.
Yes, please do. Hang on, I actually need that reminds me I need to bring up the comments from last time.
Anyway. Well, Bacon, once again, like always, I'm on the edge of my seat. What did you think about these volumes of Mushoku Tensei?
Well, if everybody goes to one of the best places on the internet, x.com/JarkeyBacon/media, and you pick the second picture that it comes up, it gives you a very concise overview of my Mushoku Tensei experience with me in a Mario Toad costume, Toad from Super Mario Brothers. That's what I need to say. What can I say? Man, it was good. It's really good. I'm in.
That's great.
It had me at my heart. The best way this is how you know it's good stuff, right? I had withdrawal symptoms because I couldn't go on beyond volume 15 for 4 whole days, guys. I'd wait. I was waiting for this because someone in the comments, hashtag thank you to, if they load, what's his face? Not Mr. Gems, for giving the suggestion. And I was like, you know what? Let's do that. Because I'm just writing so many notes. Don't even know if they're relevant. But I'm like theorizing on the fly. I'm like, this is hype. My only concern is, Ari, is that this is like the part of the story where you're like, this is where it's really good. Like, this is like the really good set. Because you mentioned there was like a bunch of volumes. Amazing. And I'm worried that we're already there. Because I don't want to be peaking too soon,
Yeah, very interesting.
Not that, like, peaking early, people say that some things peak early, like, I have a close, people say villain peaked early, that stuff.
I do.
Berserker peaked early, all these things, right?
Yeah.
What they get a claim for, and that gets their fan base, but they don't peak at the end. Who knows? Anyway, I remember from last time, I mean, we'll get there, but I remember from last time, I was like, at the end of volume 12, I'm like, well, all right, I'm halfway through volume 13. Where we at from here? I don't know what we're doing, So what are we aiming towards? What's our long-term goal?
Yep.
And I mean, volume 14 was like, hello, knock knock.
Yep.
Ding dong. Gonna give you some long-term goal right here, baby. Gonna slam it right in your face. So that was pretty good. Yeah. What is it? I started making notes for halfway through volume 13. I don't actually think I made it. But yeah, cool. So I'm noted up here. And I've got all my theories. I got
that's exciting.
During my time, so I'll take you through my thought process as I was like smashing down some notes. But yeah, Mushoku Tensei, good. Dare I say, very good.
Bacon, this is fantastic to hear. Firstly, let me say, I really love these volumes. They're great, especially, Turning Point 4. I was very excited to get to this point. But I will say also, when I was saying those volumes in a row that I think are really good and some of the best stuff in this whole series, I wasn't actually thinking of these, but I do like these volumes a lot. They're just different. I like them a lot for very different reasons, I guess.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah, the ones I like the most are probably this, coming up, definitely.
Okay.
But these are great. I know in the fandom at large, I think a lot of people love volume 15. It has a lot of stuff going on in it. I like it a lot as well. Yeah, also, by the way, volume 15 is the first one where I'm rereading for the first time, because I've read the web novel for volume 15 onwards. I've never read the light novel. So there was some some bonus stuff in there that I'd never seen before. It was a lot better translated. So I enjoyed Volume 15 quite a lot more this time as well. But yeah, so I guess we can...
Well, let's throw that all the way down, because Volume 13 is the greatest of all time. I see that cover. I'm like, it's just that family. There's no way they can focus on the whole family for a whole volume. Well, look at that. They do. And I think, I mean, just like, I guess starting off like this, like, yeah, that'll be like, when we get to the anime, everybody will be like, slash of life, you know, it's kind of falling off like from that, you know, early season 2, you know, talking points, whatever. And okay, fair enough. You know, you're waiting for that weekly release, but when you got it all in bingeable content, it's fantastic, because I've made a massive deal about, like, all right, this is going to come up again, but I'm afraid to say it, but Mushoku Tensei, it kind of cringe. Why? Because it has a harem in it, and I feel like harems are just inherently cringe. But Mushoku Tensei does its hardest job to make it not cringe, and I think it still is cringe because it inherently is, but it's forgivable cringe, if that makes sense, you know. And it tries its hardest, right? And it's because it's like, oh, this is like the historical time. Like, Rudius has had a very unique impact on each one of these people, and they have had a unique impact on him. And there's like literally no one else that they like. There's they're not going to get with anybody else. Well, maybe they would, but you know, kind of at this point, they're not going to get with anybody else, and they're happy to work out together, so it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Now, that is through the story, and it kind of justifies it through their character interactions by still making their characters strong together, without reducing the picture. And I kind of want to see even more of that. I think that's why I actually really enjoyed Volume 15 as well. That kind of Dragon God stuff, but see it later. I want to see the interdynamics of how the heck are they going to make this work and not cringe. And despite saying it is cringe inherently, I'm still finding it very enjoyable, if that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, it's unique and it's interesting and it's refreshing, because, you know, I've seen this done before, harems done before, and not even harems, just like, oh, there's one guy and there's all these ladies. Not even like an explicit harem, but it's kind of like, yeah, we know why you guys are watching this. Well, Mushoku Tensei is giving us other reasons to kind of stay gripped in there and not feeling too much like a power fantasy. I don't think at any point, definitely reading the light novel, I'm like, oh, this is like clearly a power fantasy, because the light novel does such a strong job trying to be like, Rudius, you suck, like internally to himself. I don't know, he doesn't really, maybe have some more, like when they all kind of have their Death Note moment of like giga-braining every single social interaction sometimes, maybe, but that's kind of the nature of a book sometimes, maybe, I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, that's like an overall 1 point. This is going to be an absolute mess for any viewers listening, because I want to be going back and forth. That was one thing I was thinking.
Okay.
On my when I was on my training of living without Mushoku Tensei for 4 days, which was very tough on me.
Yep, I believe you, Bacon. Okay, so for this relationship stuff, let me think. So when I was reading, I had like the voice of Kyle Entertainment in my head. Okay, sometimes that happens these days when I'm trying to consume media. I always think like, oh no, when I talk to Kyle about this, I'm gonna have to like defend against this, and I can just hear his voice in my head. And the one thing I was thinking of with this relationship is that I think within the story, I think it's done really well. I have no issues. Actually, I really like their relationship. These 4 people, I guess now altogether. I also think that they all have, like you were saying, I think they all have very good reasons for liking Rudius. I think all like good, unique reasons for liking Rudius. I think Rudius has very good, unique reasons for liking each of them. And I think they all have their own character, like you said. And I think I really enjoy the relationship the 3 wives all have with each other. And I think we'll see going forward. I think I'll like it even more. The only one thing is the very cynical look, which I think someone like Kyle Entertainment would have, which is that thinking of how it's impossible to write a story, or it's like, yeah, impossible to write a story like this without having like negative views on women or something. Like, I feel like that's something Kyle would say. Now again, I'm fighting a ghost of Kyle here, but it's kind of like if you were to tell the like high level details of this to someone, like some random person who doesn't know anything about Mushoku Tensei, like Miller the Killer, for instance, they would obviously they'd laugh it off, and they'd be like, oh, okay, classic, like sexist author pairing 3 women with this main character who's really powerful and crazy. And I think like the conceit of it feels very like in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, this is like cringe and terrible. But I think in implementation, I think it's just done very well. But that's kind of my perspective when I'm reading this. I think it's good. I think it's as good as it can be, and I enjoy it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I pray for your soul if you're listening, hearing Carl determine your thoughts on how you enjoy stuff.
Yeah, it happens these days.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective is always similar, but I wouldn't go like for the moralistic approach.
Yeah, that's the Kyle.
In terms of like this denigrating to women, just because harem as a concept, I don't think is like an immoral thing. In real life, and if you're doing it, maybe more serious story. But like at the end of the day, power fantasy. Like, you know, we're having loads. You know, like there's place for it in media, and if it's not your thing, you can move on by. That's fine, right? Like I know loads of people that probably wouldn't like Mushoku Tensei because, I mean, if you've gotten this far into Mushoku Tensei, you know, there's been a lot of barriers you've had to hurdle.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of, you know, your palate being tested. And I found it for me, and I'm in this zone now where I'm like, no, actually, like I want to stand back and look at the actual. And I think this is probably the best compliment I can give it. It's like you have harems when I'm like, yes, they are like almost inherently cringe because they feel a bit so pandering to the audience and almost so unrealistic to my personal experience in life. Okay, if I went back 500 years and I went to a king or some rich noble, maybe that was like having that multiple wives is a thing. But I also know at the same time, hey, if the genders were reversed, I think the reader, there'll be a large population of Mushoku Tensei reader base that wouldn't have given it a shot, if that makes sense, right? Probably including myself, right? Like if it's one girl and for 3 other guys or whatever. So yeah, to say that it doesn't have the maybe more, I guess, degenerate aspects of it would be, you know, taking away from what Mushoku Tensei is and what it actually tries to do. I think it's such an interesting thing to think about because it's something that I am naturally kind of repulsed by. It's not something I personally enjoy. And yet, despite this, it's only when I take a step back that I'm like, this is kind of cringe, but when I'm enjoying it, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I am actually really enjoying these characters' dynamics. And it has had me, someone who I feel like is very cynical and very easily, you know, attuned to this kind of thing, actually enjoying it and not having a problem with it. And I think that's all credit to this, right? If this is the Steins Gate or timeline that you're on, right? The Infinity War timeline where you've got your base, your foundation is cringe. Mushoku Tensei has taken the one timeline where it's edging as close to not being cringe as possible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's tough to like. Yeah, if you just, it's like when someone describes me to like Oshinoko, right? I watched the first episode, and it's like, I mean, I think Miller watched it, and I know it's super popular at the moment, but there is something about it, like that first episode where you see a doctor, like there's an underage idol, I think it is, and he's a big fan of her, and then he gets reincarnated as her baby, while also like helping her get changed. And there's also a girl, which that's not so bad, but it's something icky about that. I mean, just like, Japan, come on, you know, like, here we go again. It's another Japanese thing, and it kind of can be just a bit of a barrier.
Sure.
But like when you talk about, I've heard people talk about Oshinoko, and they never really talk about that. They talk about its critique of social media and the idol industry and that. But if you're going to give like a summary, you're going to be like, hey, there's this like pregnancy. It's not a gynecologist. That's something that's different. But it's like there's a midwife basically, and he dies and reincarnates as the baby of his favorite underage idol. I think she's underage. I think she's like 17 or something. Anyway, and he's like 30. So anyway, it's a whole odd situation there. But then, you know, you get into it, and I don't want to take away like positive aspects of that. I just think there's a lot of series like that, and Mushoku Tensei is definitely one of them. If you're going to give a explanation of it, it's like the harem's not even the most cringy part of Mushoku Tensei if you're trying to give a rundown of it. So anyway, bit of a long tangent there. Like the whole, like, you know, is he a pedophile? Is he a nonce? All that argument, right? And it's great. It is frankly great because Perugius refers to himself as like a 50-year-old multiple times. He sees himself as this age adding on to him, but then you can also say, well, he's not emotionally mature, but he doesn't have to be a good person, but then the story also doesn't explicitly call him out on his, well, it does in a way, but not really, like, right? Like, I don't think, okay, so come back to this, like, when I'm thinking of a moral story, and Mushoku Tensei I don't think is trying to impart too many morals. I mean, maybe it is, but like, I think of something like Vinland Saga, where it's like, okay, you have the main character doing bad stuff, and they're made to do really bad stuff so that when they stop doing the bad stuff, like, the author can really criticize that, and like really get into it. But at the same time, I understand that there's loads of stories that do this type of thing with regards to other things like violence. I think I haven't reread Berserk, but I don't think Guts is probably a good character, even after the Eclipse and stuff. He doesn't do good stuff, right? I think there's that. Anyway, maybe this is a cyclic. I'm picking his points or whatever. Yeah. But like, he does some bad stuff to Casca, right? And he doesn't ever get like destroyed for that online. As Guts is the worst character. Everybody's like really raw and appealing to him. So I think it's something like it's an emotional thing. Like, the moral arguments are more of an emotional argument, and rather than an actual consistent meta-ethical, proposition or whatever. Anyway, sorry, long ramble. I hope that's interesting for everybody, because you're getting more of that. I was like, I can only speak for like this long, and we're like, oh, dude.
No,
anyway,
that's fine. This is good.
Cooking.
I think it's important to talk about this because this will be a thing for part of this story at least.
You know what, Ari? What we should do is, You go do your thing, I go to bed, and then I wake up. We should do the exact same thing to me when I'm in the morning.
Genius.
Yeah. Just flip around. Yeah. Dude, easy Peter. I'll go to bed straight away. I've got my thoughts tucked in my brain. Bang. Guys, you're getting 3 hours of content. This reminds me of when I talked to Mir about Planet S, right? And it's a 25-chapter manga, and we have about like 16 to 20 hours of discussion content on it. Like, how do we get that out of that? Like, I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing?
It's just so good.
We have.
All right.
Hal's not even here.
I know. That's
sorry.
Imagine if he was here. This would be a very long discussion. Okay, Bacon. Volume 13. I also, I know you commented on the slice of life stuff. I you know what? Volume 13 wasn't one I was really looking forward to, because, it's before Volume 14, for instance, which is one of my favorite volumes. And it's after Volume 12, which is one of my most emotional volumes. But my goodness, I thoroughly enjoyed all the slice of life stuff. And I just think it's just so... This chapter, I mean, now that you've read... this volume, now that you've read Volume 14 and 15, to me it's pretty clear now that this is the calm before the storm, I guess. Like, this is the...
Oh, yeah.
One of the biggest storm... one of the first, I guess, maybe only, moments of... What do you call it? I guess it is just the calm before the storm, where it's like, everyone's happy, everything's wholesome. We're having birthday parties where... we're talking about the future, and this is all before we go to Perugius' castle and have a big grand adventure and Turning Point 4, and now we're fighting Orsted. We have a big mission. Everything's changed, and so like, even in retrospect now, it's like these were the happy moments, So it was a good placement, I think, for this volume.
Yeah, yeah. And so if I go to that amazing picture of me with Bacon, I mean, feel free to make an extra tab, because I don't know if Ari's going to edit this in or not. But you can see clearly in the Volume 13 camp, and even a little bit of Volume 14, Jarkey Bacon, he's a happy lad with his Toads costume. Because, you know what? I'm like, no, we're big chilling, we're having fun. And at the end of Volume 13, it's like, we're going to Perugius. This is my master. And I'm like, oh my word, name drop? I didn't know who that was. Like, I didn't guess that was who that guy was. I'm just like, uh-oh, is this going to be the big bad? What's going to happen here?
Yep.
Oh, this is going to go, wah. And then I will say, and maybe you'll defend this more so. I'm going to be a bit harsh here, coming out with my Kyle gloves on. The Nanahoshi bit, with her getting ill and stuff, I think it's going to come up later, but that was pretty weak, right? I'm just like, how is this the conflict we're going to go to? And then it wraps up super quick. I mean, it has some proper concept. I'm like undermining how it was good, right? But then I'm just like, how is this the main conflict we're getting here?
I see.
Perugius, he's on our side. He's the GOAT. We'll chill, right? And then we get the Turning Point 4. And I would say, like, my stomach, wherever my diaphragm was, that was absent, and it just opened up beneath me, and it just dropped, right? Like, it is spent this whole Volume 13 being like, yeah, you like these characters. You really like them, don't you? Oh, let's make you like them even more. Get this cozy feeling going. Oh, let's turn on the campfire. okay, Nana, she's getting a bit ill, but, nothing we can't do. Man, the man god is like the worst person ever. You're going to die. I mean, he hears everything. He knows everything. And I'm like looking over my shoulder as I'm reading at night, being like, man god, are you there? Are you watching me?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Rudius makes a comment. I'm like, Rudius, you can't be saying that. Surely the man god knows, right? And I'm like, I have not felt this much anxiety and fear reading in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, what's happening? And it's like, it's crazy. It's like, it just drops out of nowhere that they got time traveling in this wazoo. And like, this makes absolute sense why Ari likes this, because it's got time traveling in it, and he loves time traveling.
Yep.
And we're here. And it just drops all this lore. And I'm just like, oh my word, what's going on here? And then this is my macro feeling. Then we go through volume 5. I'm like, okay, I'm reading this diary. This hurts a lot. This is like, I'm like, Rudius, just don't touch that basement. Whatever. I think was it a rat? That rat, you just leave it. Don't do anything. Do something. Don't freeze it, you idiot. That's going to like keep the virus alive, you dummy. Right? Do you not know your bacteria? Like, he's referred to bacteria so much. Like, shorty, he's done. It's like stuff. And I'm like, don't do anything. Aisha, don't touch it. Don't wash any bowls. Okay? Right? And don't go in.
House.
This is like what I'm thinking the whole time.
Yeah.
Burn it down. Burn it to the ground. Okay? Kind of vibe. And I'm just like, we get out there, but then the man god knows what's happening. And I don't know how powerful he is. Rudius doesn't know how powerful he is. No one knows who powerful he is. And then Rudius is like, I'm going to go fight Orsted. I was like, okay, well, I know Eris is coming, so that's kind of like, she's going to fight Orsted. And in typical fashion, like, I know she like turns up at some point because there's like a cool picture they drew of like her being like, hi, Rudius, I'm here to save you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it said that exactly, but it's something along those lines. Like, she's turning up, they're going to meet this chapter. When they're going to meet. And then it has this cool thing, and you're like, wow, this is like a crazy fight. This is like awesome.
Yeah.
But also, I'm just like, somehow, like, even after the Tofu fight, that's what I'm calling her. You have Pierogi and Tofu.
Jesus, okay.
So that's what I'm referring to them as. For those who don't know, Pierogi is like a Polish dumpling, and Tofu is tofu. If you don't know what tofu is, he's from tofu. And so you get that, and then you're like fighting him. And then he does the best thing ever. I'm just like, it had this line, like he submits to Orsted, and then like it has like line where it's like, for whatever reason, I feel like I trust Orsted more than I trust the man god. I'm like, dude, me too. Orsted is the GOAT.
Yep.
Like, he's a good guy. And now I have like omnipotence as the reader in some regard. So I'm like, I have no like emotional backlash. I really just like, dude, this is the guy that killed me, and I'm going to submit to him. But like, for whatever reason, I'm just like, yeah, trust that guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're good. And then Now we got Orsted on our side. I'm just like, oh shit, here we go, baby.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Oh
yeah, and then it has like dumps all the lore. I'm just like,
much.
And so it like had massive anxiety, and then like fills me up again. It like Orsted comes, he cuddles me, he stitches up my diaphragm and the bottom of my stomach, and he's like, don't worry, Jarkey Bacon, it's gonna be okay. He like gives me a little, he does like the Richard hair ruffle. I'm like, Orsted, I love you. Husband of the century. Anyway, that was like I just had to get that like timeline off my chest. So that I
have a few things to say. Okay, I'm still going to get distracted here. But okay, first thing, I'm very glad that we got the man god reveal finally. Because, for this whole time you've kept saying, I think I got a spoiler for the man god, Now we can finally say, yes, he's evil. Isn't that crazy, Bacon? You finally have got to that part in the story.
Who would have guessed it? I mean, okay, to be fair, I've the fact that I've noted stuff down, I feel like I've been a bit more privy to these things. But for those who don't know, Iron made like a poem, and the only thing I remember was the man god. And the man god was like my favorite thing about the anime, definitely in the first season, because every time the man god turns up, something's going down. You're like, ooh, here we go, something spicy is happening, right? And then I'm just like, but he is also sus, but you don't really know how sus he is. And then it's kind of like put into actual like. And I don't even think I got spoiled on that. I just thought like he was a con. I didn't think he was that big of a deal. Like, he kind of stares it up, but he's just like a dude. He's doing something slimy, but he's not that big a deal. And then it's like, he is the final boss. Like, when old Rudius comes back, he's the final boss of this world. I'm just like, in gamer language, that's what I know. Holy moly.
I have to say, there's one line, we'll get to obviously we're going to talk about Turning Point 4 specifically. I remember there's one line, it stood out to me when I was first reading it, stood out to me again, which is like the fact that older Rudius never really understood why he put the rat, or like why the rat was in the basement and why the man god wanted him to check out the basement. And he said like, I think it had something to do with an event that happens 20 years from now. And I was like, whoa, what are the man god's like planning way ahead. Like he's doing this subtle thing where all Rudius has to do is open a door, and this will lead him down a path where 20 years from now it's going to like lead to some outcome that the man what God particularly wants. And I'm like, man, this guy is crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of small things I love about Turning Point 4. But that was the first thing I wanted to say about the man god. The second thing, we also get two. Well, I guess we kind of get three kind of characters. One would be like we finally get the proper characterization of the man god. But the second is we get good characterization of Orsted now. Like we have a better perspective of who he actually is as a character, which I think is kind of interesting. Obviously, we're going to get more.
I don't think any of it was a surprise, to be honest. Which I thought it was like, yes, this is who I kind of thought Orsted was, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, what was really interesting is we got a perspective chapter of him. That was kind of surprising when he's like going into the fight. That was really cute. Where he's like, Nadahoshi, like, oh yeah, why is there a thing here? And it says man god, and he's like, what are these words? And he's sensing the smoke, and he's surprised that there's so much smoke. And I'm like, oh, it's just cute. So yeah, a lot of Orsted stuff. However, I think also we get a really major character in Perugius here. And we'll talk about this when we get to volume 14. I love Perugius Bacon. There's so much to love about Perugius, in my opinion. We'll get to that, I guess, when we get to that. But yeah, bunch of characters in these volumes. But
cool.
I guess back to volume 13. We have a lot to talk about here, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we'll get to this. Okay, let me start at the beginning of my notes. I don't remember the concept, but it's like I had Lucy. It's like Rudy. The crazy thing is I haven't mentioned that they had the Lucy, Rudy meet together yet. That's how big this was. Like how much stuff went down. What's his face? Let's shout him out again. Not Mr. Gems, absolute goat, was like, don't read anymore because you have too much to talk about. Because he meets Lucy. I thought that was PogChamp. That was really nice. It was just a fun. This is what I love about Mushoku Tensei. It's got like, I actually think there's like consistently what I love about Mushoku Tensei is that you have a character, we have a lot of stuff that happens, and we don't see them for a while, and then we meet up again, and we're just like, oh, what's happening, right? And I feel like we've come to the end of some of those things, but it's still really cool because it's like, oh yeah, like how are they going to go? And then it's like a kind of reveal that, like, that's it. Anyway, wait, I'm sorry. I'm saying Lucy.
I was going to say, you're saying Sarah.
I'm really confused between Lucy and Sarah. It's because they're both normal names. That's why I'm getting confused. Right.
True.
So when I said Lucy, it's like Rudy. I was like, is Lucy someone from the other world? Which is kind of revealed, and I explained that I may need to actually make it out. But basically, it's like, because she is a direct descendant of Rudy, she has like something special about her because that's what leads to the fate with Orsted, basically. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
But true, Sarah
I'm so off topic, but on my brain. Sarah does come back. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Next thing, Julie is making figures, and they're better than Rudius's, and the pose is cool. That was a nice touch. Like that a lot. The quote that's quite strong. I think Rudius says like, "There's always someone in the world better than you." To actually give you an abbreviation of what was said at my school is, "There's always a Chinese kid better than you, whatever you do." As like a joke, basically, there's going to be like some 4-year-old Chinese kid who's like the best pianist in the world, and he's going to be better than you. So don't even try. Which I thought was interesting. The highlighting of gratitude being important, and Rudius thinking how lucky he is, which I do like kind of accepts the line before the fall, but it's like it is a really important thing, and there's like small things I actually think I'm trying to dig into what the author is, because I feel like the author must be a father, right? He must have a wife, like he must have lots of life experience. Like it feels like there's a lot of like wisdom from life experience in particularly volume 13 in this internal monologue, and that idea of like gratitude actually being really fulfilling and kind of underrated, and everybody kind of brings up. It's a great reminder just to be like thankful. Just think about, dude, I'm talking to Mr. Ari on the other side of the world in different time zones right now about Mushoku Tensei. What isn't there not to love about life? If that makes sense, right? Okay, there's lots of stuff not to love about life, right? But for me right now, that's something for me to be thankful about, which I really like. It feels free to button at
No, I will.
I'm just rattling off stuff. No. There's a thing where like lies on eyeliner. I'm calling up lies now because it's just shorter to write that down than I'm lies every time I want to make a note. Where she says, "I don't deserve Cliff," and I was like, "Girl." I mean, that relationship is just an interesting one because it's like they both feel inadequate. And I wrote this before we knew what Alana Mize's deal was, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And this was one of the funniest things. There's like a quote in 13 where it's like Rudius like goes to her, and she's like sitting there, and he compares her to a devil. And then as soon as she says she'll help him out with the threesome out of nowhere, he's like, she's a goddess, she's the greatest of all time. I was dying. That's hilarious. The fishing scene, oh my word, the fishing scene is amazing. The boot fish, top tier humor. I'm like, this is great. I love this. Where Rudy's just like, no, it's
he's delusional. Yeah, it's great.
It's amazing. But he's not actually delusional, right? He's just, he's just padding because he's his older brother, and he's funny. It's great bands. I love that. I can't. Yeah, that got me from the anime. I'm going to complain about it when Carl's with us again. So
no, they'll definitely include the fish thing. This is one of the things I really like was the distraction from the party, or even just like the idea of trying to set up a party and then have it be a surprise and everything is so cool. And the fact that Rudy is like thinking, oh, Paul wanted us to like have some fun, and just because he's not here doesn't mean we shouldn't like celebrate. I enjoyed that kind of idea of behind the party, and also just the fun of like taking Aisha away, trying to surprise Aisha, but Aisha's probably going to figure it out. Taking Norn away and Norn being completely oblivious and getting mad the fact that like I think it was Roxy who was going, but like Sylphie was staying behind, and she's like, why are you treating one of your wives like this and the other one's staying behind? And that was kind of funny. And just the it's just so cute. That's the only way I can just describe the scene. We had these three characters together.
Carl term.
Yes, true. But it's a new kind of dynamic, Norn, Roxy, Aisha, Rudy. Like, these are characters who we don't usually have together on an outing. I thought it was cute. And obviously when we get back to the party, it gets even cuter. But anyway, continue, Bacon.
Yeah, the biggest compliment I can give you to like a piece of work is where you got a big group of characters and me really being like, I want to see this character, and this character interact. I want to see what happens there, right?
Yeah.
And feeling really rewarded when you do make them. Like, I'm actually, even with this scene, I'm just like, I didn't even know I wanted a fishing scene. Well, you convinced me it's the greatest scene of all time, right? Like, that's when I'm reading it. That's what I love about it. And I'm not sure about you, but have you ever had like any aspirations to write yourself or make a story or anything like that?
I mean, sometimes when I read something good, I'm like, man, there's a lot of freedom in storytelling. You can just write whatever you want. Like, maybe I should try it. But yeah, not particularly explicitly.
Well, for me personally, right? Like I like with some of my friends, so we've created like theoretical video games with similar characters. We've written like thousands upon thousands of words in their backstory. And one of the best things after you've written out all these backstories is like, okay, well, let's do these things called tavern scenes. So we have like a rough, like 5 different parts of the conversation we got to go through, and how these characters interact from there. And the idea is that your characters are well realized enough that you can create an intriguing scene and a fun scene to help you as a writer understand your characters better, by like evincing like how do they work in different situations. Because when you work with other people, you can say this is what the character's like, but when you actually put it into practice, it's completely different. Because you're like, oh, of course that makes sense, or no, actually, like in my head, I envisioned it like this.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love about this scene is like, you don't really have to think about much, but you're like, of course Norn is not happy that Sylphie isn't there. Of course you're wondering as a person, like, Aisha's totally got this figured out. Of course she's good at it, right? But then you also see new sides of it, like Rudius really being deceptive and cheeky, but in like a non serious matter, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Roxy there actually being like, oh yeah, I used to fish all the time as a adventurer. And then Norn be like, oh yeah, I really like that. And be like, oh, okay, I didn't expect Roxy to be really good at this, but that makes a lot of sense, right? So this was really fun stuff. And then it goes on to the whole present saying, yeah, I was giddy the whole way time. Did I shed a tear? No, but I was like, it was like that kind of emotion,
Yeah, there was one point.
Like, oh, yes.
I got very close, when I think it was when Norn gets excited for her gift, and she like looks to Zenith, and she's like, "Mom, look, my gift." And then Zenith like smiles a little bit, like, "Oh my god, look at that."
Dude, that was crazy. I'm just like, Zenith, you are a cold-hearted woman.
Mm-hmm.
No, Zenith, sorry. Lilia. That was another.
Oh, Lilia. Okay.
Didn't she have a thing? She had not Norn. So I'm getting so confused. Sorry. Aisha had a moment with Lilia, right? I think with this present, I'm getting the end of Paul's scene.
I'm thinking of the end of volume 12, but maybe
we're not getting confused. Oh yeah, but Zenith. Anything that happens with Zenith, I'm popping up. I'm just like, new lore drop on Zenith. What's happening? She's medically getting better. I'm getting crazy. And there's a big moment later, which I'm just like, holy! Like I was like, that's when it hit me actually in the gut at certain points. But anyway, we'll get onto that later.
Okay. So I actually...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry. I did write down here, Lydia actually smiling. There was a comment on her actually smiling. So...
okay, sure.
Yeah, the cold heart has been broken. She did have a thing with Aisha though, but yeah.
Yep.
And I think also here, there's there's all these like things in volume 13 where it says the boss is characterized in like the rumors about him. And this chapter had the boss is merciful to fish at the end.
Yes, that was funny.
And there's an interesting thing in this thing where Rudius thinks about Eris and he's nothing negative about it. She's like, he's probably like, oh, she's probably chopping her way through the world, which is like such a pivotal point where you're like, oh my word, okay, so he's like mentally overcome this massive obstacle for him where before thinking of Eris really hurts him.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's able to, think about her like without getting depressed again, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the
Sorry,
I'm getting so many tangents here, but I love how slowly the Eris storyline has been done. We've had Rudius has basically had like a whole lifetime basically without Eris at this point. Like so much has happened since they saw each other. It would have been so easy to kind of just have that one break volume in volume 7 and then bring her back in like volume 8 or something. But no, we could take it slowly. We build up a new life, and they meet each other in very different points in their lives, which I thought was kind of really cute. But yeah, Eris.
And it oozes complexity because you're like, oh my word, there's so much to untangle once she gets back, and how's that going to work?
And like her expectations of Rudius, and I guess Rudius's expectations of her a little bit. Yeah, really.
But also how she's changed, because I don't think you've had a ton of like actual characterization of how she's changed. Like, you've had little bits, right? I've been like, oh, she's got, there's this water style Isadora, I think she's called. As that kind of changes, shifts her dynamic, right? And I think that the Queen water style old lady is who's on your thumbnail. That's probably what's happening. That's what I think.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. Oh, Adidas are interesting. Like, I'm not correct. Unbelievable.
I'd love to see.
It's exactly how I thought her in my mind. But yeah. And I think, there's as you say, it's that drip feed, and it's like how Rudius has changed. How is that going to all crashing together? You're like, Eris could go so many ways, right? Like, we know she's changed, but we don't know how she's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it feels, volume 15 is very cathartic in that regard. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, back to the party. I have 3 actual things on here. Oh, no, I think we've talked about some of these. One is the fact that Aisha wasn't surprised by the birthday party, but she was surprised by getting a gift. I like that.
Yeah. And that broke her brain because she got out. Like, what? She got, like, she was L and Rudius was light.
Pretty much.
All according to Kekyu.
Yes, thank you, Bacon. A fantastic translation. This is... Okay, I actually had a Norn about...
Japanese, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Bacon. I had a note about this Norn Zenith thing. And there's a detail here that I think is specifically what I liked a lot. It's when... So basically, Norn shows Zenith the present. Like, she gets excited. She's like, Mom, look at this. And I think after that, Rudy then thinks about... he thinks back to when he was younger and how excited Zenith was to give him his gift when he was a kid. At that birthday that we saw, like, in the anime, for instance. Yeah. And that's kind of like the added element where I'm like, oh, man, she used to be so full of life and happiness. And she probably is the most... because I guess we only saw her in her happy days. But, she was the most joyful character back then. And it's so sad to see her like this now. But it was so rewarding to see her smile a little bit after really thinking back to that. So that's a scene that really stood out. And then this is a final thing in this related to the party stuff, which is that Roxy, there's like a line or a way Rudy, I think it's the way Rudius describes it, which is that Roxy gets the marriage gift from Rudy and Sylphie, and she's like happy and everything. But there's a line that Rudy says, which is that Roxy will one day tell him that this was the moment that she felt that Sylphie had accepted her. That was another cute thing.
So I forgot that was like a future prediction coming from the past or whatever. Like, it does have these little drops. I thought it actually, I remembered it as like, oh, this was when Roxy remembered that she got accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I love that whole scene of them in the shop and Rudy's like, I'm actually trying to find what Roxy wants, and there's like a description of her like picking up the hat, looking at the price and be like, putting it back, kind of thing. And I'm like, great.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, Any more Volume 13 notes, Bacon?
Does not have Sarah in it? This is my Volume 13, right?
Yeah, we got Sarah.
Cool. Okay, now on Sarah. Thank goodness. Sarah being... Oh yeah, there was this big reveal where Rudius was like, I didn't love her, but she was just a rebound, which is like... I felt like was actually like an interpretation of Rudius that I did not agree with.
Sure.
Necessarily. But I'll buy it for now. Like, it's just... Yeah, I guess it was a rebound. Maybe it wasn't a rebound, but I felt like they actually genuinely liked each other. But it kind of felt like they parted ways at this point and be like, no, that's it. Like, I've got my 3 Pokemon. I've got my Bulbasaur, got my Squirtle, got my Charizard. You know, don't need Zigzagoon or whatever color Sarah's hair is. And yeah, that was really like interesting. But what I loved is just. This is another thing. I love the dynamics where, like, Princess Ariel's there. And Princess Ariel's like, hey, okay, the Sarah reveal would have been cool if I didn't get spoiled by the cover, like, by that colored picture. I mentioned this last time. But what happened is, like, Ariel was the Chad. I was like, someone break this dynamic. Ariel comes in, and it's like, how about you guys go do this, and Sylphie, I need you to guard him as a bodyguard or whatever. And then Sylphie has this cold line, which is like, oh, no, I think Rudius can handle this by himself. Or something like that. I'm just like, oh, sheesh. And it's like, okay, now it's just a fun thing where you're like, yes, they would do that. Thank you, Ariel, for doing this. Mm-hmm. And we'll go on to more Ariel stuff later, but it's just like finally a bit more Ariel characterization, which I do like. And it, like, I think it's like we've seen Ariel in very similar situations. Not that it's been exactly the same, but like in a similar situation so far. But now this is like something different here. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, now thinking about it, it's used to contrast with Perugius later, because there's this girl that absolutely loves Ariel in this section. So I then make a note about what is the story behind this author. Surely that he must be like a father of some sort.
Why would Ariel have not the Ariel thing, sorry, on the Sarah thing. I guess the way I see it, I agree that it's kind of like it was a shocking thing to hear that Rudy didn't actually think he was in love with Sarah back then. My interpretation is that he thinks he like loves her at that point when they're in Volume 7. Is like, this is great. I love her a lot. Like, we get along, you know, we went on these dates, we're like, we'd match and her, blah, blah, whatever. He loves her. Then he goes and meets Fitz or Sylphie and falls in love again, and Roxy as well. And when he's like thinking back in retrospect, comparing the love he feels towards like his 2 wives, you know, and then comparing it to what he felt back with Sarah, he probably in his mind, looking back retrospectively, he probably thinks that, that wasn't love at all. You know, it was something very different. It wasn't as deep as the connection I have here. But in the moment, I feel like it was almost certainly he was in love. And he's just doing it retrospectively because he couldn't compare it to a relationship with Sarah because he never really had one. If it was expanded and all this time, if it was a bit longer, you know, he had a relationship with her that lasted years, I'm sure in retrospect he'd be like, yeah, I did love her. He doesn't have much to compare to. That's kind of my take on.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, with Sylphie and, well, Fitz in particular, there's, like, all these comments about how, like, Rudius, like, despite himself, finds what Fitz does as attractive, right? Which I don't think Sarah ever really had. So despite Fitz being a boy, supposedly, and all this stuff, he's like, he keeps thinking about these things. Well, Sarah, like, I don't think he has as many internal monologues as this, so I think that's, maybe I was being a bit cynical when I thought this, but I was surprised. Mm-hmm. The next part, I think the prose change, this is one of the best prose bits in the light novel so far. The commentator style changed when Linnea and Priscilla fight. That was amazing. Yes. I loved it. It was so good. Fantastic touch. And that whole thing and how that went down and how they had to get on the car at the end. Very funny. Together.
Yeah, that was the great payoff to that, true.
Because it's quite funny. But it means that they're definitely coming back, I think. Definitely a cat girl, I reckon. Sorry, I forget which one. She's Linnea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they'll somehow bump into her again. And I say this just because Mushoku Tensei, I don't really elaborate this on so much more, but they tend to do bring back characters around and have them linked with each other somehow. So far. I feel like, Anyway, we'll go on to this a bit later. I had an idea. So I said Ghislaine Probst lost her fight for the throne and then got kicked out. Oh, this is my theory. Yeah, Ghislaine was the Linnea of this situation and she lost to her brother there or something like that. And then she just went off and tried to get really strong. That's my theory. But that may have been disconfirmed elsewhere. But that was like, when I was thinking about this fight, I was thinking about it to Dodia the Dodolia and the Gugolia tribes, and they were sounding exactly the same, but that was really confusing. Something.
Yeah, Dodolia and Adolia, I think, like with an A at the front.
Adolia, yeah. And then I said Perugius, what? That was that was like, I'm not stopping at volume 13. I'm moving on. Like I can't stop.
I remember asking you last
Rider
Bacon, who is this old person? And you gave a few things. Definitely did not suggest Perugius, but my goodness, in the light novel Bacon, we get the mention of Perugius' name so much. In the anime, we hardly ever hear it. But I feel like in every volume, we get it like 10 times. There's just a casual mention of the name Perugius. And now finally, we get to, we're going to go visit him now.
I feel like it's more Laplace. Laplace got to come back, surely. He's turning up at some point, surely. Pretty was Pierogi on the prowl. And then we got Rydia, which is the old lady. I was like, I call this out. It's in your thumbnail. That's who it is.
Oh, right. Rhino? Right. I am curious about the pronunciations here, actually. Rita?
Rydia? Right? Like, it's Ridea.
Okay.
Yeah. Rydia.
Right.
Yeah, whatever.
Rydia?
And then I also said, Nina is Sonic. I like Sonic. I wrote that because I thought it said she was like the fastest.
Yeah.
Out of them. And then it said Eris was faster. And I was like, I got confused there. Anyway, that's what I said there. I can't remember exactly if something happened here, but
you know what? Wait, before
definitely a great scene.
I have to say, the anime, the brief scene we got of Nina, has actually colored my perception of Nina a lot. I just never, in my mind, had any visualization of what Nina looked like for some reason. Even though I think we get like some illustrations of her.
I think they do give her,
yeah.
But yeah.
So it's crazy. When I'm thinking
I imagined her less kawaii when I'm reading this, and then when I went back to look at it, I was like, she's got just the blue hair.
Sure. The very blue hair, kind of. All saturated, I guess, for the way to describe it. I think I already have it either way now when I'm reading, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I think in my mind, like, lots of them is like, I think how it describes women and men, like when it says a woman's muscular, it means something very different to when a man's muscular, if that makes sense. So like, when I think of, when it describes Batagati, I'm like, I'm thinking of Batagati, right? Like, he's absolutely jacked out of the wazoo. And then it talks about like, I think Ghislaine at some point, and then I see Ghislaine in the line, I'm just like, dude, she doesn't even look like, like she looks big, but like it is one of those kind of like classic, like, maybe just how the artist is drawing them. I remember in the anime, she was a bit more bulked out.
Definitely.
Anyway, it's kind of the same thing with Eris. Like when I had the picture of her, it's like she doesn't look like. Yeah, it makes a big deal about how like strong she is or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
if the anime
look at the picture or something.
I think almost certainly they will. I think the way Eris is depicted is slightly mismatched in the lineup. Is slightly mismatched from the descriptions of her.
Well, the thing is, at the end of season 2, she still looked like quite a young kid. But I think it's just not to spoil. Maybe like it's maybe back in time or something. But yeah. All right, Ari, how much time do we have? We have half an hour left.
Yep. But wait, I got some notes for volume 13, Bacon. Okay. Firstly, we've got Sylphie is now. Basically, Sylphie is. I like Sylphie a lot more this time through. One thing that we've got now.
For the first time. Hang on. All right. Hold on. Give me your rating at this point in the manga. Like at the end of volume 15, what you like? Oh, best girl, all this stuff.
Oh boy. I could not tell you. It's too difficult. I can't remember. I read all these pretty quickly, just like you are. I don't know. I can tell you though that I would say probably at this point. You know what? Honestly, I always did like Sylphie quite a lot. She'd probably be like at this point in my A tier list, like back then. If anything, she would be definitely moving up. We'll see what happens. When we get.
I'll have to react to your tier list as well. Yeah.
But I don't know how good that video is, but.
It's one of your most viewed ones. I think it's your most viewed one on this channel. One thing I will say, like, I think for me, it was quite clearly like Roxy I enjoyed less than the other two. I'm trying to think why that is.
I agree at this point.
I think, but then she does something in volume 5, and I hope I noted it down where I was like, Roxy, you're the GOAT. There's a period in this chapter where I say, I've started in volume 14 where I say Zenobu's the GOAT, and basically I'll just say like character name the GOAT. And there's a couple of these, so where I'm just like, I love this character now. Like, I don't get it. Like, I thought every character was decent, definitely in the anime. I was like, that's good and fun. But now, I'm like, where's Richard? I want some more Richard. I want Richard to go. He doesn't need to go. My boy Richard, where is he? I'm like,
we do get a mention of it
in this fight
by Perugius.
I know. I pop off. Yeah, I was like,
All right. Wait. Let's finish this. So, the reason I like Sylvie a lot actually here is that now that we have this new life, like which has been established, like she was here for a minute, like while Rudy was away in Berserker, she was at home and pregnant and everything, and now we have like a slice of life stuff in volume 13. She very much has fit into a kind of household authority kind of role, where everyone kind of, I don't know how to, there's not really an explicit example.
things to her tune.
But yeah, it feels like she is like the. She's kind of like, I don't know how to say it. She's like the center of the family.
This is her domain expansion.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I don't know how to. Yeah, she's a motherly / household authority. That's what I've written, and I feel that a lot.
Yeah, she's like the most like mother vibes, where she's like, I think it's made quite clear that she is. Maybe not the most. She's the most perceptive and emotionally intelligent in some ways, but then also Roxy had a moment. I was like, actually, this would be awful without Roxy. I remember the moment now. But like Roxy's the logical one. I feel like Sylphie's the empath, and Eris is the physical one, and also very emotional. Like Unga Bunga Kun Barbarian vibes.
Yep.
Very trippish, but very good. So
okay. Yep. Okay, next up, Rudy. Oh, okay, so obviously every scene that Norn is in, I'm like, this is like a 10 because Norn's the best character in the story.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Norn is asking if she can join the student council, basically, to Rudy. And the surprising thing there is that I thought Rudy would be like, yeah, of course. Like, why are you even asking me? But Rudy, I like how he's being a responsible guardian for Norn in this situation, where he's saying that she already has so many things on her plate. Like she's trying to study the sword, and she's trying to make the book, and she's got to study and everything. So Rudy doesn't immediately say, "Of course you can, Norn," but he like says, "Are you able to like take on all these responsibilities, really?" And I like that, a small dynamic of guardianship of Rudy for Norn. That was great.
Yeah, and what's nice, he does it in a way where it's not demeaning. He doesn't say no.
Yeah,
he's like, he tries to help her think it through.
Yeah,
and when she gives him a strong enough answer about being basically like, I've done it for last year already, I'll be fine. Then he's like, okay, like I'm cool. You've proven to me absolutely fine. I'm just looking out for the best for you. Like it's a good interaction.
Yep. Final two notes. One of them is we got more Orsted reputation stuff. This is all building up to the big fight we're eventually going to get, which is that I think it's like this. I don't know what you can call this trope, but you've got Galfarian, the sword god, and you've got Ryder or Reader, or whatever you want to call her, the water god, and they're talking about Eris, and I think at some point Gal says, I think Eris is like, actually I don't even know who. I'm not even going to bother saying who it was, but someone basically brings up that Eris wants to fight the dragon god, and Ryder's just like baffled, and then Gal smiles, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Look at he's grinning right now at hearing Eris's resolve here. I can
feel his grin through the pages. I can imagine in my mind.
Yep.
Because he looks like that guy, that other North God style guy. I'm just like,
oh yes.
Jungle.
It's true.
That's what I imagine he looks like.
Yep.
The Peacock Man wasn't in as much as I thought he would be.
Although, yeah,
got mentioned once again.
True. Yeah. Yep. However, what we do get a lot of, my final note here, Bacon, we got Isolta. At least that's how I pronounce it, Isolt. The Water King, I think at this point. She is fantastic.
Isolta.
I like her vibe.
I thought she called Isadora. I don't know why.
I mean, it might just, I'm listening to the audiobook.
Cool.
But I'm also just reading.
Right, I'll go with what you say. Isolta. Okay, cool.
Isolta. She is great. I love her vibe, okay? I don't really know what else to say beyond that. I remember in my tier list, I think I remember saying Isolta is the embodiment of the water god style. Just because of like her demeanor just kind of gives off that energy, but I don't really know what is it about her character that gives her that. We also haven't learned much of her, so I don't know why I'm thinking that.
Well,
yeah,
she adds a great dynamic in between Nina and Eris, which seems to be a bit of a standstill. And I had this nice thing where it's like Eris beat Nina beat Isolta, and Isolta beat Eris or whatever. Yeah, I had this like kind of expanded upon like what Rigid actually taught Eris and how that works, like how she basically wants to get them to move or whatever.
Yeah.
And move first and then get to that and all that stuff. Right. But yeah, I know exactly what I mean by Isolta. But then this kind of gets added upon and twisted in a great way later, where like you feel like, okay, Isolta is clearly the most mature, least judgmental, least, like she doesn't come in here and be like, this is the only way of the sword or whatever. She kind of comes in here and like treats these two as her peers, which I like, which then helps all their relationships come together better. Yeah. It's really nice.
All right. Well, Bacon, that's volume 13.
Yeah.
So, volume 14, I guess we can go into now. Crazy. Bacon, we're traveling to Perugius's floating fortress. I don't know if we have a name for it. No, I think we do. Chaos Breaker is what it's called. They don't mention, I don't think, in this thing.
I love how every single time that comes up, Rudius is thinking what I'm thinking, which I think is just a way like to lampshade the fact that the author wants to call it something cool, but Rudius is just like, dude, why are these cringe names for everything? This is so stupid.
Yep.
I hate
Aquamardia for his stuff. Chaos.
Yeah, that's cool because like Latin, right? And you can get past it for me, but when it's like basic like English, I'm edgy and cool, and then that's kind of funny. Yeah.
Now, I don't want to give him
my thought.
Yeah,
okay. The first note I have from volume 13, I'm like, Perugius is summoned from the human world or has connections somehow, surely. I feel like this has been disproven since then, but maybe I can see it. There are just so many casts from the sky references. Every single time that Rudius is like, he's like, this is like Laputa, the city in the sky. And as someone who's watched that movie for the first time this year, I'm like, yeah, there's loads of similar things. And I was like, surely this is like an actual, like, it's always repeated so many times. Like, I think it's like the 5th time it's mentioned by Rudius there. That I'm just like, surely it's like going to be a legit thing. Like, it's linked somehow, like, surely.
So firstly, I haven't seen Castle in the Sky. Yeah, I'm so glad you have, Bacon. Now, I'm going to ask a very specific question, which I have no idea how big of a character this is, so you might not even remember. But in volume 14, Rudius makes a reference when he learns Perugius's last name is like, I think he says $. And there's a character.
I made a note of this
guy called that. How do you know how to? Did you watch the dub or the sub? Basically, is my first question.
I watched the dub with Mark Hamill and a New Zealand lady. It wasn't very good. I actually probably recommend the sub because I thought interesting. I don't know why. It just wasn't the best performances, and I'm generally a dub guy. So,
but Bacon,
Castle in the Sky. Yeah.
Big question. How do you pronounce $, or whatever it is? How would you say that?
Oh, his last name's Dola. Dola. I don't know how you would say that, but it's Dola. Oh, that's who it is. She's like she's one of my favorite characters from that movie, actually. Definitely why I remembered her name, but yeah, she's great.
Okay.
She's like she's like the classic Studio Ghibli old lady type, where they look really mean and they're actually quite nice on the inside. So,
all right. Well, what were we saying? I think we were talking. I cut you off when I was talking about Castle in the Sky.
Well, yeah. Like I'm just saying that. Yeah, that was another reference when he's got the same last name. So it must be a connection to something where like a book has fallen through, or he's got his VHS tape, and he's be like, "I'm watching this, man. Well, this is sick. I should make a castle off this," kind of vibe. Like there's going to be something like that. But then it kind of has lots of in-world lore because it has that whole like a mural in it, which I think did Perugius inherit this from someone else, or did he move that mural in there, or?
Well, we do know that he is very much a collector of art, so maybe he collected it.
Yeah. Well, that's a very non-answer. But anyway, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on to the big thing. The Lion reveal with Perugius was a top tier.
What is the reveal here?
It is that it is that she. Well, basically, Perugius is like, I would like to ask my mother, like, about my mother's condition, and Perugius is like, I don't know if that I can give much help. But that lady over there is the foremost expert in it. She's experienced it. And you're just like, why nice? And she's actually like 200 years old, but we don't have any memories before that. And then it kind of goes into her backstory a bit. But actually her husband, and then her husband died tragically. Yeah, like she got accepted into the elves originally, but then it was an actual curse. I remember way back when I was just like, no way, that's a real curse. She's just making that up. Classic Mushoku Tensei.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, okay, why didn't they give a male character that curse? Like, we know why, right? But, okay, I digress. Lion is a great character.
And a crazy reveal.
And, so that's the reveal that, like, basically, Zenith, they don't know a way of fixing Zenith. I don't know if, and they just kind of hope that. But Zenith will have a curse on her, which I'm just like, oh, what's her curse? It's going to be like, she can now levitate or smile all the time. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah. Smiling a lot.
I thought, okay, that's going to be like, okay, the man god operates outside the house. Orsted and Rudius is too far away. And then it's like she's like the chosen child, like for Harry Potter, she gets the lightning scar because of the power of love, and that's her curse. That'll be kind of how it was revealed at some point. Probably not that exact, but I feel like no, I didn't think Mushoku Tensei won't do that, but I'm just going to say that's what's going to happen. I don't think Mushoku Tensei would do that, but for the sake of the bit, yeah.
There is something to say. Just another tangent. The stuff coming later. But Mushoku Tensei has done two things now, which are like I don't know how familiar you are with Kyle Entertainment's video. I wish it happened. Where he either basically...
Oh, yeah. Well, it has Villain Saga in it, Ari.
It does have it. That is true. It does have Villain Saga. I guess for anyone...
I'm getting any more so I can.
Yeah. So there's this idea that Kyle has, which is that sometimes the narrative, in a typical narrative or in the majority of media or something, you always want stuff to happen, but it just never happens. It's like you want like a character to kind of... No, wait, that's not even the point. I guess it's more like, for anyone who's seen Game of Thrones, this is probably the most popular thing that he talks about. There's a scene where Jaime is charging at Daenerys, and you're on the edge of your seat. You're like, oh my gosh, it's going to happen. It can't happen. Like, this is impossible. This would like ruin the narrative. And what would you possibly go forward with if this happens? And it gets very close. And it's a moment where it's like, I wish it actually happened, because what would have that done to the story and everything? And it would have been so interesting. There's like a few examples he lists in that video. I think Mushoku Tensei kind of does this twice, and I think it actually happens. Now, I don't know if Kyle, for instance, would consider this examples, but for me, I think it's pretty close. One of them is one is the Turning Point 4 thing, which is like, there's no way this is actually happening, that a future Rudius is coming in, it's a time travel thing, and we're getting hints of the future, and we're getting like a big plot to it. There's no way this is happening. Like this, I'm
like so much on you at once. Like,
yeah,
crazy. Yeah,
it feels like
completely transforms the whole entire situation and the lore about it.
Yeah, and that's the first thing. The second thing is more subtle, I guess, which is that there's no way we're going to get all of this Orsted lore in once. Like, there's no way. This is like something we slowly fed the lore, and we're just going to, like, over the next volumes, he'll explain something. No, we just get a big chapter. Yeah. He's going to explain everything. And I'm like, I'm so happy. Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. No, it is true. More often we'll be like, oh, and then Orsted explains, like, I can't tell you that. Why? Because I can't. Like, it's like, what happens all the, like, you grow up on Percy Jackson, or like Harry Potter, and it probably happens all the time, and then the kids are like, you're blue ballsing me before I know what blue balls is.
Yep.
I think that's not exactly what Carl was saying, but it is similar. Like, what to give more specificity on what I remember from what Carl was saying, it's like, Carl is that moment when you get so locked into a moment that you somehow lose all reason and like previous, like your cynical responses of something happening. And you're like, oh, it's going to happen. And then is that moment in between you, like your actual rational brain, and be like, well, according to story tropes and structures and all, I know that's not going to happen. And that before that comes crashing down, you have this general like belief that something will happen.
That's a way better description.
The other two examples he gave were was when Thorgil's about to kill Canute. I feel like I should have said spoilers for Villain Saga.
Yep,
but he doesn't. It is a really minor thing, honestly, but like he attempts to try and kill Canute or something. And a big spoiler for Attack on Titan, like the last season, part 2, is when best girl, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. No, what's her face? Our queen, Gabby Gang shoots Eren, and like, I think Carl said this, he actually believed that he was dead, and then he was like, oh, there's no way he's dead, like he's got all these powers and stuff. Comes back, it's quite obvious, but like for that page he believed it. But I do I like what you said here. It's like, I was just like at the end of that, I was like, but I also had the thought, I was like, hang on, is it revealing all its cards? Yeah, like I didn't quite get all of it, but I feel like this has massively shrunk the world. Like you revealed the two biggest, baddest boys, maybe apart from Laplace, and the three biggest, baddest boys apart from Laplace in 2 volumes. Like you've revealed Perugius, somewhat, the man god, like massively, but not entirely. And then Orsted is pretty solid. And he like clarifies so many questions. And you're just like, okay, like, have we peaked? That's your question in your mind. And if I was saying, it seems like we haven't. And it's not the only thing I go to Mushoku Tensei for, but I know exactly what you mean. It's like, oh, should we do this?
Yeah.
And that makes me excited because I feel like we should. I just wonder if it's going to be like, that scene in Attack on Titan season 4 where Eren is talking to Zeke, and they have that whole situation with Grisha. I guess I'm avoiding spoilers now just in case you guys want it. But anyway, there's a massive reveal on like the actual fabric of the universe, and then it kind of ties into later and what people find dissatisfactory about it. lots of the time kind of with the final, it's kind of always climax too soon, because that's like so awesome, that scene. Like, oh my word, this is like such a reveal about what's going on here. Like, this is what's been building up for this whole time. But here, it does it, but it's like, yeah, it's another reveal. And I do wonder if it's going to be a similar situation, but I trust that Mushoku Tensei's. But then again, it didn't even set up the fact they could have time travel in it, which was fair enough. Okay, like, that was not even in the cards. But it doesn't explain a lot on like how do these two worlds talk to each other. And it's like, well, really, this is the same world. They got all the technology in, I guess, right? They just traveled in time. That's the theory at the moment, I think. I could have missed a few points. And I feel like, Ari, you want to reveal those points, because they've probably been clarified in volume 15, but I've forgotten about them. But you don't know that they're clarified. Well, actually, no, you read it, so we'll get to it. But yeah.
All right. So back to volume 14, B. The castle, Perugius. I don't remember what you were saying before we started going on that tangent.
EliteAri's reveal.
Oh, yes, the EliteAri's reveal, that's right.
That's great.
Okay. No, there's so many things, we can't talk about that. All right, how about let's just talk about the meeting with Perugius generally, and then Perugius' character. So we've only got a little bit. We have got quite a bit of Perugius, I guess, at this point in volume 14. I love the description of Perugius as being magnanimous. They use this term quite a bit when they're referring to him, especially Silveril and his like familiars. I think I've said that before. Like, he's the magnanimous Perugius. And to me, it feels like a very good description of him, where he by all rights, he is the hero of this world. Like, back in the day, fighting Laplace, he won, he fought hard, he lost his friends, but he survived. He doesn't owe anyone anything at this point. He was offered, I guess, to become the king of Azure, I think, at some point. Or maybe they like kind of just see him as a king at this point. But he doesn't want it. He goes in his castle. He's basically still searching for Laplace because of, all the terrible stuff that happened to him because of Laplace. And he doesn't have to take guests. He doesn't have to be nice to these 9 people who are coming. He doesn't have to listen to their interests and kind of give them advice and stuff. But he does. He still sees himself as like, if someone disrespects him, he'll probably still be mad about it. But even surprisingly, sometimes when Rudius thinks, oh, did I go too far? Did I say something a bit too? Did I offend him by like mentioning Kisharika or something? But he like takes it in stride, and he doesn't. Perugius doesn't really lash out or anything. Basically the magnanimity of Perugius, who should be a king in all rights here and has no right to, who has no. He doesn't have to treat these people with respect, but he does. And he entertains their requests and stuff. I like Perugius a lot. But did you take any of this from Perugius? I don't know, maybe you have a completely different reading of him, but what do you think about Perugius?
I think I had this eventual reading, and I think what you are saying is correct, but there's other things.
Sure.
Sorry, my nose is getting blocked here, but I like how you put in perspective that he is the hero of this world. I didn't quite have that locked in my brain. Like, if you asked me about that, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, but I didn't quite have that in mind.
Like,
what I was expecting is that
the Armored Dragon calendar.
Oh yeah, it's like Julius Caesar. We have the Julius calendar, whatever. We got like July and June, and we needed 2 more months. July and June. August was from Augustan.
Oh wow!
That's why October. If you think about October, is actually 8, but it's actually the 10th month because it got moved along to, I think, for Julius and August.
Wow.
November is 9, but it's actually the 11th month. December is the 10th month, but it's actually the 12th.
Jesus, okay.
If you think about that. From Latin. Just law dropping, real world law, got all of it. Feel free to correct me in the comments. But yes, okay, I said Perugius. My note here is, hang on. Okay, there's a point before this, but let's stick on the Perugius part. Perugius is exactly what I expected. This is what I said here. An old curmudgeon. And I think, like, when we went up there, we got zooped up there. I was like, man, they are being quite amicable, but it does feel like a cult where they all love him. And there's going to be that scene where, as long as you stay on his good side, he won't, like, lock you up. And this could be, when you're entering that hall, you're like, dude, they could be, I feel like a very generic point. Not generic, but like, what would be typical? That you don't want to, you're walking on eggshells, you don't want to worry about, you get him on his bad side. Because then his, like, summons will, like, lock you up and you'll be stuck there for a while, and this, like, you're going in a danger zone, right? Theoretically, he should be the danger zone. You think he's the hero, he should be the greatest guy of all time. He's like Luke Skywalker, and then you meet Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi, and he's an old curmudgeon. This is kind of what I'm expecting. But but he's more of an old, warm curmudgeon than I expected. You know, that he opens up quite a bit more than I expected. And here's what you said. He is actually very generous, magnanimous. I think that's a great word because it not only suggests his generosity, but also has that connotation of majesticism, of him being, he has a very particular thing. But then it also redefines him later, where he is just a massive racist towards demons. And you're like, oh, well, my word, geez, okay.
Yeah. You know, he did fight the great human-demon war, you know, I think, yeah. You know, he probably should be racist. It's understandable.
Yeah, like the whole Roxy not being there, like that's a bit of a red flag. And you feel like we're going to an old timer. He's not necessarily super progressive or yada yada yada, right? It's like when you meet one of the Miller. This is what I expect if I went to the Miller's church, like the main. If you met
you could say you met Miller.
Not Miller. Miller. What a guy. Yeah,
Miller Church, true.
The Miller Church, which I partake in. I love One Piece. One Piece is great.
Yep.
Hunter x Hunter, very good. Anyway, that's like I don't think Pierogi he left an impact on me as much as maybe you, but I definitely enjoyed him, and I think there's a massive, like a bit of a big reveal point where he only has like one stick up, which is like, don't get in his way of Laplace. That's his main thing. Yeah, and it becomes quite predictable in a, not in a bad way. Like, you know what he's doing, and it all makes sense because that is like how he works. But when he is the only one that Rudius can still turn to in his dark path that his old self went on, I thought that was very interesting. And that like Perugius still helps him out despite, you know, awful things that Rudius has done, and kind of gives him more depth to him where it's like, okay, no, Perugius actually has his back, like is interested in Rudius, genuinely cares about him. And I think that opening scene of all of them like introducing to him, Zenoba being an absolute Chad. I think, this is why I said, I had a few comments. Ariel getting done is very funny. Like, mine, she is a blessed child, surely, if she's got this charisma quirk or whatever. And then it doesn't work on Perugius because
he just cuts right through it.
Yeah, he doesn't care at all. Sees through her games. I'm just like, well, finally someone does it, right? Like, anyway. But I feel like also just suggests that Ariel, she can manipulate teenagers, but she can't actually manipulate real people. Even though she does with real soldiers, but actual people educated in these games, you know.
Like a fellow ruler, for instance, like someone like Perugius has been the king if he wanted to.
Exactly. And then like Zenoba, I think this is a thing for all the characters, but nothing quite characterizes as well as Zenoba at this point I'm making, where every character has become less of a caricature, less of a meme, less of something, and like Zenoba, like he's an actual person now. He's an actual depth to him.
Like he's having
he's not just a lackey to Rudius
with Perugius.
Yeah, like, having conversations outside of the main character. Yeah. I think that's the key thing. Like, what makes this way more believable is that Rudius isn't the center of everything. He's important, but it's not like Sylphie and Roxy, thank goodness, have a relationship with each other outside of Rudius, right?
Yeah,
that's really important to actually keep that believability. And then Zenoba having a thing with Perugius, and Zenoba being like, I can't believe my master wouldn't get this one, like, see the, like, link the two Dragon Quests together and all this stuff. He's coming into his character more, and it does make it a bit stronger. I think he does revert back some points, but he has moments like this in volume 13 as well, which I think we talked about last time, where he came to see Lucy for the first time and stuff like that. I don't know if you have anything to add on this first part. I mean, we had the whole Nanahoshi thing,
I guess
and stuff, and it reminded me of the trip. It's like, oh, Nanahoshi's coughing. Well, they don't mention characters coughing in stories in movies unless it's something they'll like it's bad or they're gonna die. So I was like, what's happened here? And then she coughs up blood.
Yep.
And they have this really weird scene where like Rudius, like they kind of had this like moment between Rudius and Sylphie where like Sylphie's getting a bit jealous or just not sure. Like she trusts Rudius but not super trusts Rudius, if that makes with Nanahoshi. She knows something's up. And then Rudius has this thing where like I think Sylphie thinks that Rudius is going to do something to her, like be really mad at her for like hurting Nanahoshi. Like he actually believed that she'd hurt her by being vindictive or something like that. And then he wipes the blood off her face. I'm just like, I thought that was a bit of a weird thing where you, like, did the author genuinely try to make me think that Rudius was mad at her for a second or something like that? Like, I thought that was a bit odd. But yeah. No, I'm going to stick inside the sky at the moment before we go down to Demon Town, and we can pick up that later. Or in a few moments for some people. So,
all right.
Yeah.
So we'll end this here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll include
guess we do
you
have
guys, but yeah, we'll be back for the next part, or maybe I'll cut this out. We'll see. All right, guys, we're back. I don't know if that was seamless or not. Maybe I'll edit this part out, but yep, let's keep going, Bacon. So we were talking about Perugius, Zainoba, their stuff. What do you want to talk about now, Bacon?
So early on in the podcast, I mentioned that we're probably getting onto my least favorite part. That's the best way of putting it. My least favorite part of reading all this stuff, which was the Tofu, my new best girl, who kind of turns up and then goes away. But before this, we have, like, I think I mentioned last time, we had this whole weird scene where Nanohoshi's looking a little ill, and then Rudius, like, then Sophie tries to help her, and then she like coughs up loads of blood, and that's kind of like quite like almost a shocking scene. Yeah, so just coughing up loads of blood, and then Sophie thinks that Rudius is really mad at her, but he's actually just wiping off the blood. And they're like, "Oh, what's happening to her?" Like, it's kind of like talked about beforehand, and it says, "Oh, she's got this like thing where she's got no mana." So it's kind of like imagine you use like this is the best example I've got. Imagine you use like the wrong type of fuel in your car. I'm thinking like, say you use like 2-stroke in your lawnmower when it doesn't need 2-stroke. Right. It's already got oil. Right, this is when the fuel is mixed with oil to like lubricate the machine. It has this build-up of gunk over time. I have no clue if that's actually how it works, but that's how I think it works. And then eventually it builds up so much that it kind of just overflows and you have health conditions. And that's kind of what mana is. It's kind of like she isn't meant to be in such a mana-rich environment, and like, she's having a hard time. She has like, so will worn her down over time and like builds up, and she's got like a heart attack with all that plaque that's built up or whatever. I don't know.
I like that.
And then they have to go on the whole thing and figure out where to go, and they go back to, I forget what the rap. I want to say,
you got it.
I think I was going to say the place in Black Lagoon, which is like Rapern or something like that.
Oh yeah,
what's it called? What's the place they go?
Renoapa.
There
they go to Ricard, and that's what it's called. Renoapa's the Black Lagoon.
Okay, Ricaris.
But yeah, I think of it. It's like a play on a
no Renoa University. It's Renoa University.
Oh, it is. True, yeah.
Or what is it in Black Lagoon?
Renoapa? It's like something Renoapa or something.
Lagoon place.
Oh my goodness. You got this.
Yeah, Roanapa.
Roanapa, that's right.
We got it.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. So, we head down, and we meet the goat. I actually mean the horse. Nokopra.
He is so great.
Nokopara.
Oh, goodness. I'm so happy every time we see him.
It's weird, because like this was one of those cool moments where it's like he doesn't recognize Rudius. I'm just like, oh, is Rudius going to let him know? And then we get the really sad news, where it's like, where's my lizard and buddy and bug girl buddy? And he's like, they sold the pet shop because Lizard Man died and she moved away. And it's one of those things where it's like you're going to run into people again. And this is where, I mean, we're going to talk about this even more later, but yeah, like, it's cool that, you do pop off a little bit when you see someone again. You're like, is Rudy going to reveal himself? But he doesn't. And you're like, okay, cool. And then Cliff, being the absolute Giga Chad, nice religious man he is, helps out poor little girl, and it's Kishirika. They're trying to find her. And then because they find Kishirika, she gives him the eye of seeing video game stats in real life, all the notes.
Pretty old.
But that happens later, because he initially asks for knowledge on how to, like, there's this moment where like Rudius is like, oh, is he actually going to, like, he's giving up a lot to ask this question to save Nanahoshi, and of course Cliff, the chatty is, says, how do you save this condition, this symptom, syndrome, or whatever? And she's like, oh, well, you just get this flower. And he's like, oh, that sounds pretty easy. Yes, and like every Demon King's plate. Oh, no, actually, no, it's in this place. And they're like, where's that place? I've never heard of it. It's like, it's been sunk in the middle of the ocean. And like, oh. And then she's like, well, it's also being grown in every single demon palace. And we're like, oh, that's cool. And then he's like, yeah, let's go. We can, like, and then Rudy's is like, oh, let's get it from your palace, because this is where your palace is, right? And she's like, yeah, about that. And then out of nowhere, whatever his name is, Gavin, or I think it's Darwin. No, it's not Darwin. Whatever his name is, turns up, Mr. Captain Man.
More?
The guard, yeah. The
you mean the absolute
who's gonna get
greatest mage that's ever existed? More, one of the greatest people in this whole story. We love him so much.
He's more. Yeah, he's got like a normal name.
Yep.
He's like got a normal name, average Joe, and they're all like telling him, okay, whatever you do, don't like accept her thing or don't hear her out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to Tofu. Yeah, sorry, I'm just like recounting.
Okay, we got all this stuff.
Yeah, all of this stuff is like, yeah. I guess my initial stuff is that when they talk about it, I'm just like, okay, this is gonna be this is gonna be what we're doing this whole volume, maybe the next volume afterwards, or what, right? It's gonna be a long term thing, and it kind of gets solved very quickly. And I feel like it is for something more later, but it also feels like this is the least cooking Mushoku Tensei has done for a plot point in a long time. You know, like a subplot. Often it lets stuff stew a little bit more. Even trying to get to the Big Era continent, we have like half a volume going through the wastelands. But here they're like, oh, TP, and here we are, kind of all that stuff. So yeah, I guess this is a good time to bring it up. Like I mentioned with the look up. Actually, no, I'll mention this later. No.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm on tangent us massively.
Yes, let me say, that's an interesting perspective, and I somewhat felt that a little bit in my reread. I can tell you the first time through, I did not feel any of that. I was like, this is the most epic thing I've seen in my life. Oh my god, they're going back to the demon continent. It's so cool. I still feel that mostly when I'm reading this. I think there's the thing I find interesting, I guess, about this volume is kind of when you don't know what's going to happen, or like even when you're going in and you think from that perspective of like not knowing what's going to happen. It kind of feels like, okay, we're just going to the demon continent for this little thing. Okay, we just need to find Kishirika. You know, we're not going to battle. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to find her and hopefully she'll like know what we need. So it starts off very small scale, of just trying to travel somewhere and find someone. Then it keeps escalating and they like run into these guards and it's like, oh, okay, these guards are like, they're telling us not to do something, but okay, we can just go to this palace and it's going to be okay. Then they run into Atof, and it's like, oh, okay, now things are getting a bit scary. You know, she's wanting to enslave us and everything. Well, not enslave. She wants us to work for her and everything. Then they get into a battle, and they're running away, and it's like basically the volume is a escalation, where I think it starts off very, at least when they arrive in the demon continent, very small scale or very low stakes, in my opinion, even though Nanahoshi is on the line, you know. And then it starts getting to the end, and you're like, oh boy, this could be the start of like a new kind of turning point here, where Rudius is going to be stuck here on this continent again, enslaved to someone for a long time. We don't know how long they're going to be here for. I think the volume, in my opinion, is also building up towards Xenoba's death. They keep foreshadowing a lot of the time here, where it's like, this is Ato. She's one of those powerful people. She's like, Xenoba's hitting her. She's about to hit him. Is like, it just kind of feels like to me as though every time that Xenoba's getting in the action here, because I don't think we've really seen him in action before. It feels like this is the way he's going to die, and this is going to be like a big thing for Rudius.
Yeah.
That was basically when I'm going through this. It kind of feels like the premise is kind of small scale for something, and it's happening quickly. Like we teleport to the demon continent, but to me, it feels like from there, the stakes are kind of rising, and it's like, oh no, this could go a very bad direction. And then luckily, it doesn't go a bad direction. Everything works itself out basically. And then the turning point happens. It's like, I kind of find that as like a subversion of your expectations, where you expected bad stuff to happen on the demon continent, but that all works itself out. So you're kind of relaxed at this point, and then it hits you with the turning point. So I guess that's my general perspective on Volume 14. But I definitely see what you're saying as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it was fun seeing Kishirika again.
I love Jarkey Bacon.
I mean, there were some really cool things, and it's kind of adding in a new demon lord, which is going to pop up again, right? And it gives a great moment to Perugius, which does characterize him strongly. Yeah, I mean, it depends if it comes up again, like with Nanahoshi. I mean, you do feel like, oh my word, this is quite dire. I guess with that premise, I thought it was going to happen a lot longer. I wasn't even thinking about a turning point. I just thought, okay, this will take longer to resolve. But like, that is fun. Like, and it's interesting. Like, Tofu she's like quite, I don't know, very simplistic for like a character in Mushoku Tensei. And I'm sure she has more to her. I guess it's kind of like Badagadi. Like initially, like this is what Badagadi is like. Yeah, and I like her interaction with her boys, and like the how they're like actually helping out Rudius and stuff like that. And then Rudius actually it's kind of like an introduction of his electric abilities as well, because kind of figured out lightning magic, which is new, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Or a bit of an unknown. Like, and he zaps her pretty good. There's some pretty good moments where, like she's really strong, but like he electrocutes the water. Like that's a pretty powerful moment when he's like willing to like basically put he's like, I'm completely defeated because Giga Chad over here is countering every one of my moves, and he just doesn't stop.
Oh,
he like
so cool.
Said, like he told him to go down into the downstairs because they expected it, but then he like predicted the prediction. Like it was just a cool little bit, and I imagine like for like 2 episodes next season, everybody will quite enjoy it, but it'll be overall a bit more forgettable. And I think the big thing at the end is, they are like completely defeated and they kind of get in above their heads. But then Perugius comes along and he uses like a crazy piece of magic, which like there's a barrier around her and absorbs all that mana. And then you're like, oh my word, this is the Perugius I was expecting almost. Not even expecting, because it's like, oh, here's the racist now. Here we go. Like, it's crazy. Like, this is the serious boy.
Yep.
So,
okay. Again, a lot to say for all that. Firstly, I just want to echo your sentiments here, Bacon. I want to say the Moore Rudy battle, it's just so cool. I think Moore is just like, he comes out of nowhere, and he's like the first mage to get anywhere near like confronting Rudy in terms of like battle, you know? It's crazy. Like he's just able to counter everything. I just love it so much, basically. Like even, what is it? I think it's like even he gets knocked out by lightning, and just like he's about to cast a spell immediately afterwards. Like, oh my God. But then I remember Rudy uses Disturb Magic, and that's like the one thing where he's like, what just happened? And it's like, oh my gosh, Rudy's using the thing that only Dragon God Orsted knows. This is crazy. And seeing like Moore's reaction to it was really cool. Like, Moore, who's able to counter anything basically.
Well, it's like a trump card. Yeah, because you've seen him use it against Sylphie, and like, oh, he's got this thing up against him, but then like he recovers really well because he's just that experienced, right? Yeah. So they used Disturb Magic, and it was cool. It was like and I actually listened to the AI.
Oh, nice.
Say, and so it was pretty good, like a back and forth, and it was good because they helped almost the pacing. Because I feel like I would. Then again, I actually really followed. Like often, I find action is the hardest thing for me to read because it gets so fast paced, and I get so interested that I just end up like glossing over the small details and stuff. So, it's good. It's good. Okay. Yeah, I just think, I don't like think, oh, they're wasting my time. It's just in retrospect, after everything that goes down, I'm just like, this feels like, I mean, I'm sure stuff will come up later, but this feels the least pertinent to now. But you can't just have climax after climax after climax every single time. You have to have some setup. So I understand. But yeah.
And sometimes you need an anti-climax. Wouldn't that be interesting? Someone should make a video about that one. Okay, so one thing I have.
Don't remind me of a video where I can spoil myself by trying to think too hard about it.
Yeah, probably is very true. Don't worry, we haven't covered any of those volumes yet. Okay. One more thing. Actually, I have a few notes. A small thing, which is that, believe it or not, Bacon, we get another reframing of the lore in a potentially another unreliable narrator way, which is Kishirika tells Rudius that the middle of the continent, I think it's the Ringus Sea, is like the big sea in the middle of the map. That was the result of the fight between the dragon god and the fighting god, is what she said. Because previously, and then Rudius is like, oh, I feel like I've heard this story before.
Oh.
I thought it was the battle between Kishirika and the Golden Knight Aldebaran. So it's like this. We've heard this story a few times. I think I even mentioned this in our last discussion. I just like this. I like how we're kind of if we thought too hard, we could probably piece some stuff together here. But it's interesting, especially from Kishirika, who is someone who might have been alive, back then. Anyway, with Perugius's arrival, we get a little bit, like you were saying, characterization. We get a little bit of backstory with him and his best friend, North God Kalman. It was kind of cute, where he has like this promise to his dead friend that he is not gonna kill Atof, kind of cool. I like that. Hey, I guess it says a lot about the impact that Lepar's War had on him, right? North God Kalman married Atof, true. Go ahead. No?
I think it kind of gives a bit of characterization to her. Sorry, everything's a bit slow. Because the reason why is because like it shows that, oh yeah, she does actually have like she has redeeming qualities clearly, and she's like able to, like maybe there is something more there, like where this guy who's a friend of Perugius has, stuff gone down, right? It kind of basically, it's like she's not, it kind of does suggest something, which I'm looking forward to seeing later. So, yeah.
Okay, well, after this battle, and Perugius shows up, does the cool thing, does his dragon word. I believe, actually, he's using now, I don't know how much you remember of the anime, but when Orsted fought Rudy in Turning Point 2, I guess they also described this in the light novel, obviously, but it's easy to remember from the anime. He opens this like gate in front of him. It's like a dragon gate, and it like takes on Rudy's fireball thing. I'm pretty sure that's what Perugius is using on Atoferatofe. But he's opening two of them, I think. Like one of them where he absorbs it, and one of them where he like gives it to himself or something, like the mana. I think something like that. That was my take when I was reading this, I think. But I could be wrong. He could have also been using barrier magic itself. Well, maybe that is barrier magic. I'm not really sure. Yep, he was using that. But then Bacon. So they do all that, and then they head back to Perugius' castle, and then we get the coolest scene. This is probably my favorite scene besides Turning Point 4, in this volume, which is we have Perugius is basically just sitting down and chatting with Zenoba and Ariel, and then he invites Rudy to come and sit down with him. And you truly, from this perspective, you see that this is like Perugius' character on full display, where he truly just is a big fan of history, art, and culture, and he will just talk about it. He has no time for Ariel's nonsense about like I don't know, her political scheming and anything. He's like a very straightforward person. He respects history and art and culture, and that's why he likes Zenoba so much. And it's so cute, and it's like making Ariel feel like a third wheel, and makes her feel her age for once, like where she's not very, she's obviously very young, and she, like we said before, very charismatic and convinces everyone to do everything, but in this case, she's not getting through to Perugius at all. It's very awkward, and this is probably my favorite scene. I like this a lot. We also get the question about like, what is a good king, and
yeah, it was great.
Failure to answer that and everything, but
Fate Zero conversation.
Is it really?
Yeah, big part of Fate Zero. Probably, I think it's episode 16 or 15. It's like the one scene where everybody's like, "Oh man, this is a big brain show. This isn't just fighting show." But it's pretty cool. It's like they just sit around and drink, and they're just talking about what is it to be a real king, and it kind of helps thematically ground all of these characters, these three big characters. Because anyway, it is a cool moment. This is a bit different, but yeah, it's interesting what Rudius says, and then kind of Laplace like gives a answer to Ariel, but then it says not Laplace, sorry. Perugius gives a thing to her. It was a good scene. It's just a very fun scene. I don't have any notes on it to be like, this is an all thing in here.
Yep.
Wild scene with timeline. So, this is fine. Okay, I get it. Yeah. Anyway, this is my later reaction notes to Turning Point 4.
Well, that's basically what we have to talk about anyway. So, Rudy basically heads home, I think.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? Today was a big day. I'm going to start a diary. And then he starts making the diary, and then he falls asleep while he's writing the diary, and gets woken up by the man god in the barren world, is what they called it in the light novel. Now Bacon, before the actual, like, I guess, well, firstly, it depends on your definition of what a turning point is. I think there's a very clear one, but we're not going to talk about that yet. He talks to the man god, and the man god talks about the previous turning point, and like Paul's death and everything. And we get and Rudy is basically asking him like, oh, I went to Berserker and it was good and everything, but it was bad and everything, but I didn't regret it. There was no real regret. So what would have happened if I didn't go? And he learns from the man god that if he didn't go, then Paul would have survived. Everything would have worked out because basically Roxy has a strong fate. She would have survived anyway. Someone would have come to save her because Geese would have come up with a better plan, and they would have like distributed these maps of the teleportation labyrinth to everyone. It'd be like a more community effort, and everyone would go in and save her, and Paul would survive, and Zenith would be saved and everything. And and that the regret is that if he didn't go, things would have worked out better. But since Rudy didn't know anything, he doesn't regret it still. So that was kind of an interesting reframing. Any thoughts on that, Bacon?
Well, I thought that he would regret it because, and this is kind of counteracted later, but he suggests that Roxy would have found someone else, so he wouldn't have married Roxy. even though I do think it's fated for him either way to have a child with Roxy. That's what's kind of suggested later, revealed later. Which I think then says like what the man god says here probably isn't true, but then like the man god also says that it will take them way longer to get back. And this is just all assuming that what the man god says is correct. I think what struck me the most about this conversation is firstly how like trusting Rudius is of him. Like Rudius can't be this trusting. Like it felt wrong when Rudius wasn't really like cynical towards him. Like he's warmed up, but like I just didn't really like realize it. Like felt such a different because Rudius, I guess Rudius' life is going quite well right now.
Yeah,
but then also when Rudius says like, "Oh, Paul would have survived," he's not nearly as depressed as I think he would have been. Like I feel like I would have expected Rudius to be like, "Man, I really did make the wrong choice there. Like I messed up big time. Like I wish Paul was still alive." But I honestly didn't feel like he was that hung up about it.
Yeah, I think it's...
maybe I missed something there, but yeah.
Yeah, this is back to... It's the scene at the end of the anime of Season 2, I think of, where Rudy is at Paul's grave. And at that moment, I think he just comes to terms with everything. He's like, things went bad, you know. I wish I appreciated you, before you died and everything. And I wish things had worked out better, but I have no regrets. And I think from that moment onwards, like at the end of Season 2, or the end of Volume 12, I guess, I think Rudy has come to terms with it. And I don't think anything about Paul is going to make him depressed again. I think I think at this point he appreciates like what happened with Paul, like who Paul is and everything that happened with him. And I think he's over it by this point. So I would say basically like I think Rudy has completely come to terms with it. Even hearing that he could have saved him if he didn't go. I just don't take. I take it as that scene kind of overrides that. I think, in my opinion. But what else there was something else I wanted to say. The man god.
I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
When Rudius is like, yeah, I'll listen to what you want, and the man god requests him to go look at something in his basement, and then he says, either way or either not, it doesn't really matter what you do. Like if you see something, if you don't worry about it. And then it's like he's like, okay, I'll do it, and then it ends this bit where like, as I fade off, I see the man god's eerie grin or something like that. And I think it's the first time it's like mentioned that like the man god's smiling or have any single facial expression, and it's like so haunting. Like that guy shouldn't have asked that thing, and I get scared as a reader because normally I'm like, Rudius is thinking about this, he doesn't trust him, but no, Rudius trusts him now. That's not good. Like something's happening. It's been nice for too long. That Atofe, Perugius, all of that went so well. Like Perugius turned out to be a decent bloke. Like okay, we had a big scuffle there that was scary, right?
Yeah.
But like it's one of those things. It's like okay, so now we're getting to the big point, and this is really haunting. This is not good.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's when I kind of woke up, and then we kind of go on for there. We're just riding this emotion out.
Yep. So Rudy, he's about to leave, and then he feels someone behind him, and he's like, "Who's there?" And he doesn't see anyone, and then I think he does it again. He's like, "I got you now." He like, turns around and like tries to get him or something. And there is an old man there, Bacon. Oh my gosh, an old man with gray hair. He's got this robe. He's got 2 different colored eyes. Oh my gosh, just like Rudy. And turns out that Rudius has come from the future. And he said, at first he's like, did it work? And it's like, oh no, I guess it didn't work. This experiment was a failure. I think it was like the first words he says. So yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to say here, Bacon, I guess. You can start off.
Yes. The biggest thing for me, which I noticed straight away, was it's like Rudius was like, who are you? And then he says, I am blank. And I'm like, what does that mean? Yeah. And then it says like the next one, oh, he used my name from my previous life. And I was like,
yeah.
I was like, oh my word, this is crazy. And then it just kind of, we're just going hard.
Yeah, so we don't know what his name is in the previous life. This is obviously, a choice by the author that I assume if we don't know it here, we might never know it. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Yep. I don't have much to say. Crazy that we don't know it. It's not that important, maybe,
Was this the Will of Steinsgate?
Maybe. I did see that reference in volume 13, I think, when I was reading through. I was like, hey, Bacon mentioned this. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bacon, what can we say? I probably should have written notes.
I mean, it ever just happens, and I'm like, well, okay, literally what I say turning point for, damn, doesn't the man god see all of this? Surely he knows Rudius is now against him. That's what I think about the end. But yeah, it's just like I didn't want to write notes because I was just so enthralled, you know. Like it's just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. This is happening. This is happening. This is happening. And then it's like left off, and you're like, what is Rudy gonna do? And then I'm kind of like breathing a sigh of relief that Rudy is like believing this caricature of himself. But then he has like reveals gravity magic and all this stuff. Like the fact that time travel exists, and like, what does that even mean for the story? So much here, right?
Yep.
And then I guess like this goes into the next thing where it's like then Rudy just reads the diary. And what's really cool in the light novel is like when you read it, it has like this like different change in font and stuff.
Oh,
like
okay.
like has like so it makes it clear that it's like a picture being like, oh, here's the front cover, and you open up the front cover inside the book and stuff like that. And, you know, it's let out in a cool way to kind of frame it. But it's like it's in italics when he's reading from it, and when it's his own thoughts, it's not. But yeah, like the first you start reading this, you're like, oh my word, Roxy's dying, and then they go to
Okay, wait a second, Bacon.
Take the sacred relic because they couldn't. They do so much. Okay, yeah, sorry.
I got some 30-point thought stuff before we get there.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Firstly, some details that I thought were really interesting in what when we actually learn stuff from Rudius himself in the future, like when he's saying stuff. Firstly, the mention of Laplace and Orsted in the same breath was kind of interesting, where he's like talking about how, oh, you know, I was never able to get to the man god. No matter what I tried, I could never get to him. I don't even know how to get there. Maybe Laplace and Orsted might know, but I never saw them throughout this whole life. It's interesting to mention Orsted again, you know, because it's been a while since we've thought about like really interacting with him. But secondly, it's really interesting to mention Laplace here in a neutral light. Firstly, not saying like, oh, that demon, evil, crazy demon Lord Laplace, which it doesn't mean much. It's just funny that in the future, you know, he's thinking of Laplace as like an object for his like to reach his end rather than like this big figure, you know. It's kind of crazy to think about. So that was kind of interesting. Then there's the bit about, this is the bit that actually got to me a little emotionally when I was reading this, is Rudy talking about how I was never able to find Orsted, but maybe Nanahoshi would know. And he's like, oh, okay. I think Rudy asked him, like, oh, why not? And he's like, oh, well, in the very, very end, she failed. And I messed up saving her, and then he like stops talking about it. I was like, oh man, that's really sad. I don't know what it is about it that got me so emotional. Maybe I can't say much, but yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Poor Nanahoshi, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was also like similar things like, oh man, if Cliff was here, I would have been able to do this experiment.
Yeah, true.
And you're like, oh well, what happened to Cliff?
Yep.
And there's all these like little nuggets of like these people that, and there's I mean, you continue with what you're saying until we're done, and we can move on to 15.
Yeah,
because
that
my point goes on to that.
There's also the first time we're getting a true mention of Eris here, like talking about his relationship with Eris and what she's been doing.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting to subvert the reveal here, where it's like Rudy is going to know a little bit about Eris now. It's not like he's just not going to think about her, and one day he's going to show up, and now Rudy's like, oh my god, it's Eris. Like, what's been happening? What's going through my mind now? No, he's being primed now with this conversation to be like, Eris has been training, you know, she's wanted to get stronger, she did love you, it was a misunderstanding, and he's hearing it from himself in the future. It's an interesting framing. The other kind of detail here I like a lot is when Rudy mentions that you've probably realized by now, but magic in this world is all powerful. You can do anything basically, as long as you study and try hard and, you know, blah, blah, blah. That was kind of interesting as well. I guess we'll see if that goes anywhere.
But I mean, that's a big reveal. It's basically like mana. Yeah, there's no limitation on mana.
Yeah,
or magic. Sorry.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
Whatever. It's pretty crazy indeed. What else? I'm sure there's some stuff going down to the basement. The man god is the root of all evil in this world. People know him as the human god. I don't know. I'm sure stuff will come back to me when we talk about it.
Well, the god of man.
The god of the god of men, the human god, the man god. Crazy. Anyway, Bacon. Volume 15, I guess.
And there's a reveal that where he is in the world is there's a reveal where the man god is. He's in the center of the world, and it's like, oh. And then Rudy's is like, well, I guess that's why the teleportation happens, because you go through the planet and you're like in this similar ethereal place. Yeah. And it's like, actually, the world is I don't think it said it was a cube, but it's like made of 6 sides because of the 6.
A six-faced world, I would say.
Something like that. Like, it just lore dumps on, like, like what this world is actually about. I'm not sure if like the map that we're on right now, if that's a one face, or if that's all 6 faces, but it's flattened out. I didn't quite get that, but
I'm sure one day we'll understand. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
But yep. I had something else I wanted to say when you started talking about that. The 6-face world, the subtle foreshadowing of this.
Yeah, the man god is.
Yeah, where the man god is in the void world or the barren world. Because I think every time we've seen teleportation magic, Rudius, at least in the light novel, I was a bit sad they didn't show this in the anime. I was hoping they would like focus on this. But Rudy talks about how people are getting sucked into the ground when they're being teleported. Like when he sees a line of lights go away, it's like, oh, she like sinks into the ground. That's a bit strange, isn't it? Like what's happening here? And when they come back, they like sink out of the ground and they come back. Then we get the hint at like into the beginning, volume 14, when he's being summoned to Perugius. It's like, oh, there's this white world that I'm in. It reminds me of the man god thing. And they're being teleported obviously to Perugius. And
yeah,
I don't know, I kind of like this. It's setting up the idea that the man god is somewhere, or it has something to do with teleportation and summoning magic. And yeah, I like it. Kind of cool. But yep. Also, if you go back to, I don't know if I mentioned this in the discussion, but when they do teleport in volume 12 in the anime, like at the end of the anime, it turns white when they teleport. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where there's a man god's world here. Oh my god, crazy. But anyway, volume 15, Bacon.
Yeah. No, it's just, as I said, like, it was going so fast, I just didn't make notes, but as you mentioned all of it, I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. And then 15 happens, and then you hear what happens to Cliff, and you're like, Cliff dies, trying to get back, like the Millis people kill it, and you're like, oh my word, wow, because they, like, go there, and they're allowed to see it, and it goes so fast, it's like, and it's just bullet points, like, we go in there, we see it, it was like 31 pages, and we couldn't write it all down, so we just decided to steal it. And then this is like the first one where you're like, oh man, Rudy's desperate. Like, Rudy's really desperate. He's on the bad side of Millis. He's like an enemy of the faith. Cliff dies. That's like, oof.
Yeah.
Right? In the light novel, there was some odd, bold lining of things, which I thought I got a bit confused by later on. I don't know if there's a reason for that. It seemed quite inconsistent, but yeah. Anyway, you say something.
No, I was going to say that when we're going through these diaries, I find it interesting that initially, like actually this stuff with Cliff, for instance, I could easily imagine the present Rudius doing this. Like it kind of feels in line with the Rudius that I know. And gradually as you go through this novel, it's harder to picture the present Rudius doing the things he does. I find that interesting. I think that's pretty cool in these diaries. Like I could imagine Rudius as he is in his current...
And the friendly is so emotionless.
Yeah. So go ahead, yeah.
Well, yeah, the current reading is so emotionless that it kind of like makes it hit even harder when certain things happen. Like, oh my word, I can't believe that happened. It's just like, bam, 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 thing after thing after thing. There's a line here that gave me chills. At this point, I'm like terrified of the man god. It says, that night, the man god paid me a visit. I'm just like, woof.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yep.
And then, yeah. Okay, so that was like the end of my notes, but I remember another line. The biggest thing, yeah, is like the on that really hit me was the Zenith slap. Because you have this moment where Rudy basically, like, Sophie's there for him. And Sophie's made a big deal in like volume 13 that, and it's also made clear by like Roxy that if Sophie was there when Paul died, like Roxy wouldn't have had to do it, right? And it's kind of implied, like, and then here when Sophie he pushes away Sophie because he like kind of partly thinks like he would take out his anger on her, but also like he's just stuck in his ways, right?
Yeah.
So then he goes out, gets drunk, comes back home with the smell of it, and then Sophie leaves him, like it's just all falling apart. And then Zena slaps him, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Then eventually, like it kind of from there he loses. Well, what is it like? He goes after her, like kind of wakes him up, but then he never gets to see her again because Sophie dies in the riots, which is revealed. Basically, lots of things are revealed by Rudius's old form, and you kind of want to be like, oh my word, so she dies, like Sophie dies going back, and there's like Eris dies, and it's like, how does that happen? She dies protecting you. Eris is reintroduced. Then I think, yeah, Rudius finds out that Sophie dies because he wants to predict. He's like, oh, there's no way that Sophie's not here, so I'm going to hear Sophie's here. I'm going to go somewhere else. Ariel's too smart, but actually he got done in on where Ariel was going to be, so on and so forth. And it's like a really stupid invasion by her. So many things like that, right? And then like he butts in with Eris, and Eris becomes like almost like, I was thinking about like she was like his rival in Pokemon. He just tells him the worst times, and it's like, I challenge you to a duel, and it's like, and he just loses every single time, right? And then and then what happens is eventually like, he just goes back home and lives by himself. Aisha's still with him. Zenoba's there, and everybody else.
Yeah, Zenoba being there.
He doesn't even know where his family is. They've just gone. Yeah,
and him talking about when Zenoba died, and that was his own, like it was his biggest friend. It's his best friend, and he'd been there from beginning to end. And that was sad. Like when the Miller's Church gets revenge, I guess, by burning down his house. I was like, I wish I was there. That was probably the saddest bit for me actually. With the Zenoba's death in that diary. My goodness, poor guy.
I think it also puts in perspective, like we talked earlier about how Zenoba's had this humanization to him. He's less of a caricature now. And the fact that he's been put in this terms of my best friend, I'm just like, he's no longer just a minion for Rudius to like using this schemes. Like, he's his own person. It's really coming into his own, which is great. Yep.
Another detail was that got to me a little bit was Rudy finding out that Sylphie is dead by seeing her like hanging up on a I don't know what you call it, like she's being hanged up basically. She's missing an arm. There's like a big slash across her face or body or something. Crazy. Cool description, I guess. Emotive description? I don't know what you say.
They just torches the town, right? Kills civilians.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then also in one of our discussions, I remember you were asking, or probably the first one, you were like, has Rudy ever killed anyone? And I guess not, because I remember in this diary, he's like, I just killed someone for the first time. I remember the crunch when they like landed on the floor or something. I was like, oh man, okay. Crazy. But the big thing from this diary that stood out to me, because I guess I already knew all the details, but one thing that was kind of surprising, not surprising at all, I don't know why I'm saying that, it's the headspace you get put in when you're reading this part of the light novel. And it's kind of similar to Rudy's headspace, where you're reading this and a lot of depressing stuff is happening, and it's intercut with Rudy being like, I need to take a break now, and walking away. And the people he is talking about in this diary or reading about, they're alive and happy. And it's like a weird disconnect where it's like you're in the headspace. It's like when you're reading a book and you get invested in the book, and then you come to reality and you're like, whoa, this is like it's a bit different. It's like we're not in the book world right now. Or when like a good book finishes and you're like, damn, I was really invested and now I have nothing, It's like the opposite of that, I guess, in this case.
Like me with my Mushoku Tensei. Okay, I have another good example. It's me when I'm editing a podcast all day, all night with my mates. And we've had like a heavy conversation on the podcast about Oppenheimer or whatever. It's kind of like, man, there was a bit of tension there because I really liked Oppenheimer. My mate didn't like Oppenheimer or whatever, right? And like, we came off having some argument. That wasn't really that deep, but kind of deep. And then I come downstairs and I'm just like, hold, that's not that's not the same emotional state. But it's not just not a different emotional state. That was literally us a year ago because we could record that a year ago. We're different people now. That like, it is crazy. Like, and I got put in the headspace of like me viewing my friend because I just listened to him so much, but he has no idea I've listened to him yap. It was so weird. It's uncanny. It's like, So
you were just like Rudius in this diary. Crazy Bacon. My goodness. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just like Rudius. Hashtag just like Rudius.
Relatable. True. Okay. I actually don't have any notes on this future diary stuff, so if you have anything. Also, this was,
this was a great moment.
The web novel translation, I remember the beginning of Volume 15 was rough. I was like, this is a bit tough to follow here, but it was so much easier to read in the light novel, so well done, English translators.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I think they had like a French name, so I was like, fair play to them. All the stuff. Rely on the French for good translations.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I have no other notes exactly. I think it's just so many great reveals, and you're like, oh my word, this is crazy.
Yep.
And it's not on the top of my dome enough for me to remember now. It's been a week, guys, for the brain fog is kicking in. So,
yep.
But yeah, after this, we had a bonus chapter or some chapter from Eris's perspective when she's finally like leaving, and she gets a letter from Rudius because Rudius has finally sent that letter. I think maybe I'm getting my things out, but Rudius has sent a letter. Like he went down with Sylphie to. Yeah. Okay. Then. Okay, maybe I'm skipping some stuff then in my notes. I didn't make many notes for Volume 15 because it's just this. I was so interested. So,
all right, we can go through some of mine here, I guess, if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
I said my first note here, the Sylphie point of view chapter when Rudy is explaining the future situation to her and Roxy. This was kind of cool. I don't remember this at all in the web novel, so I think it's probably a new perspective, or maybe I just forgot. But there's a lot of basically when Rudy is, I think Sylphie realizes that Rudy is hiding stuff from her, and we're like following her perspective there, and then we're like hearing her talk about how when Rudy is like saying things and we're thinking about how she should react, and I remember there was one point where Rudy's like, "Oh, I might be adding one more person to the family," and and Sylphie mentions Nanahoshi, and she's like, "Oh, is it Nanahoshi?" And then internally she's like, "Oh, I think I played that off well. Hopefully I didn't sound too concerned or anything. I think it came across neutral." And I was like, "Oh, this is so funny."
True.
Yeah, I liked that the reveal to Sylphie and Roxy was done through Sylvie's perspective. That was very cute.
Yeah, that's true. I love different perspectives because I love how they view other characters in different situations.
Oh, yeah,
their view it's just so interesting because it like it shows you how much it matters, the different perspective and stuff, and having through Sylphie, which she doesn't always get, it's really nice.
Yeah, and I think also it was also this chapter where Sylphie sees that, when, I don't remember exactly the details, it's been a little bit, but Roxy, I think Rudy asked something, and then immediately Roxy responds and is like, yeah, of course, and she like reassures Rudy, and Sylphie notices that, and she's like, oh wow, Roxy is so like reliable or something, I need to be reliable too or something, and it was kind of thing. It was one of the first times, like, I'm getting up to my Roxy is the GOAT post, but I think it was the first time where you're like, oh my word, Roxy's actually really, I don't know, like, she has her own use, not use, but like being strong, like she's being shown as kind of like the odd one out and like fitting into this perfect couple, like trying to fit in that, but she's actually not. Instead, she's doing great because she has very admirable qualities to her, which can be overlooked, so. Yep. Okay. Then we also have the Nanahoshi conversation. So Rudy goes to her in Perugius' castle and talks about everything, I guess, to do with the future Rudy and the man god and Orsted and everything. Maybe this is...
Yeah, this is interesting. He just trusts Perugius so much.
Yeah, sure.
I thought it was interesting.
Yep, because Perugius, he is everything in this castle. So this was a time travel conversation, Bacon. Nanahoshi theorizes about why Rudy and Nanahoshi came to this place, and she talks about the conservation of mana, which I thought was really interesting, where Rudy was teleported to the past at the expense of part of his body. Like, where did the organs go, and how does that relate to the teleportation incident? And she comes up with this theory that actually, do you remember this theory at all, firstly, before I say anything?
No.
Yeah, okay.
You have to remind me of the details.
I think the general gist of it is, her theory is that someone in the future might have summoned them, basically. Where it's like, oh, there's like some grander plot that's happening maybe later that they're being summoned for here. And as a byproduct, it like maybe something's going on. I don't quite exactly remember the details, but it was something like that, right? Anything ringing a bell? I don't know.
Was the theory I thought was, maybe I'm getting this wrong, was that like basically like Rudius was like teleported so far in the past, like they were both teleported massively in the past, whatever. Rather than from a different world, they're like from a different era of this same world or something like that. But now I think about it, maybe it's like they were like the die, like they has all those sides to the different worlds and stuff. Maybe she's like that as well. I don't know. Like that's they come from the human side. I don't know actually. Yeah, I have to read. This is like when I was just speed reading it, so I wasn't picking up as many. Maybe.
Okay, interesting. I guess the reason this chapter stood out to me because it's like it brings up the question of why was Rudius reincarnated? Like, why is this story happening?
Yes, exactly. Why is he here as he is, and why is she here as she is? So yeah.
Yep. Also, at the end of this Nanahoshi scene, there's an interesting line of I guess introspection from Rudius, and I have a quote here, Bacon. I said, I think it's basically when Rudy asked Nanahoshi if she will help him kill Orsted, and I think she says, yeah, whatever, like she accepts it. he says, I felt a small stab of guilt. At the same time, though, a part of me was dancing with joy. Sometimes I kind of hate myself. I was like, oh, that's kind of...
Yeah. Okay. My notes are in a different spot there.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm being silly. Because my note of that was later down than my thing. But yeah, like... Oh. Yeah, no, this is confused. But yeah, like, yeah, the thought of the end, of it ending and pleading, like, but then it was a little dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you kind of thought, oh, that's a bit dark. I'm like, oh, is he going down a sinister route? Like, you know, it kind of, I think there's something relieving later on, but it's kind of, he's talking to her a lot and it feels kind of sinister. But then, like, I thought about it, she did a similar thing to him, right? Where she was begging him and kind of, they use both similar things to each other. Where they like say, hey, this is from my old life. And Rudy explains his perspective, like, hey, this is my family. I have no family to go back to. I hated my old life. Please help me. In the same way that Anna Hoshi was like, hey, please, like, what did she use it for? Like, she was like, oh, I didn't really need help. Oh, I can't not go back home. When was it? Was it when she got her illness? Or I think it was. So I can't stay here. Like, she was paralyzed. Like,
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, guess what, Bacon? My next note is about the letter that Eris receives. So
yes. Okay. Maybe I like got this wrong around, but yeah. Anyway, the letter was great because so she's called Isodere. Is that what she's called? I forget what she's.
I call her Isolt.
Isolt.
Crew.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, so she, as we kind of explained before, she has this very like water god style demure around her, and like this very strong characterization. But then, like, she reads the letter. Oh, okay. Well, Eris gets this letter, and then Eris can't really read it that well. And all the girls, it's kind of nice because like all the girls have heard so much about Perugius, and they were like, "Oh, Perugius sent you this letter." Oh, like all like the goss is happening. The tea is being spilled. And then Isolt reads it, and she it describes her frown getting greater and greater, and then she ends up by, "This man is awful. He's the worst."
Yeah.
And then she reads it to him, and it's like, you're like, oh, this is the reveal for Eris, where she realizes that he, you know, he kind of puts in very simple wording because it is a letter, so it's quite short, very emotionless, in a similar style to how he wrote his diary, and says it's like, hey, I hope you're doing well. When you left me, just to fill you in, I felt really, really bad and awful. And basically explained like that he's got 2 wives now, but like also made Eris see his perspective. And then is also like, this guy's awful, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think Nina was kind of in between, and then Eris was like kind of like you could tell she was worried about it, but then she didn't want to let it slide on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the greatest part where it says, P.S. I'm going to fight Orsted. and then everybody just goes silent. It's like the bomb drop.
Yep.
And Eris like, oh, awesome, that's what I've been training for.
Yep.
And she's like, just jumps off. She doesn't care. Like, it kind of resets the situation. I'm just like, it kind of like, you guys are bad-mouthing my boy Rudy behind his back? Okay, I want to throw some hands. And then he mentions something, just like, yeah, you stay quiet. You stay quiet. Don't bring up his name again. He's the GOAT. He's my GOAT.
He is.
You know, exactly. Which I just like that whole, like, okay, Sodre being like Millis. Oh, that makes so much sense. Oh, this is interesting. Like her most petty, we've seen her, like her most childish in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, anyways, it's good for her. And I don't remember what Nina did, but she was just fun in this scene as well. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Am I right? I don't know if you remember. Nina can't read either, right? That was the reason Isolta read.
No, she can't. Yeah.
Kind of
yes, that was it. Yeah, she can't read. Yeah. It's like, I don't even train with the sword. I don't read.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I guess the sword guard style is kind of like the samurai, where you have to do the one cut. I imagine it's almost like kendo, where it's like we just do one cut. We have to do it the perfect way. All of these rigid rules in North styles, like any rule can go. So it's quite interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So one more thing before the big battle, of course. Perugius goes to visit Perugius, and Perugius refuses to fight. And the reason he cites is that he says, well, I guess maybe we don't actually go there to see this, but Perugius says that there's 3 people in this world that you should never fight. The technique god, the dragon god, and the fighting god. Kind of interesting to name these 3 people, you know, because we've heard the reputation
of technique god is the goat.
True.
Is the fighting god number 3?
The fighting god, I believe so. It's either 3 or 4.
Yeah.
One of them is also the demon's god Laplace would be 3 or 4. I'm not sure. But yeah.
Yeah. Have we had this scene where, like, maybe I'm getting confused and like I thought there's two scenes, but it's actually just one. But did Rudius start having a conversation with Roxy, and Roxy was like, "No, you should get Sophie for this."
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Maybe it's when he's describing that he's going to go off to fight Orsted later. But yeah, there's anyway, we're coming up to that scene, so my notes are in the wrong order, so I'm getting confused because I'm getting worried that we're going to miss.
Yeah. We'll talk about reference.
Continue on Perugius. I love the lore drop.
Go ahead, yeah.
I love the power inking. It's like,
true.
Perugius like, yeah, I would never fight these guys. And he was like, oh my word, he wouldn't fight them? Okay, geez, wow, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then he starts building the armor.
Oh, yes, we didn't even talk about that. Oh, wait, firstly, we need to remember that. Firstly, I wanted to say that it is interesting that a long time ago, we seeded the 7 great powers concept. And still, there's still a lot of those people who we've never really had mentioned or seen or anything like that. So it's like there's these great characters that we kind of could look forward to maybe meeting one day. Like, oh, what are they going to be like? Are we ever going to meet them? Are they going to be, we're never going to see them maybe?
It's like the beginning, it's like One Punch Man where you're like, this is their strengths. These are their strengths. And you want to find them all. Where's Blast? Who's Blast?
True.
That stuff. Yep. Where's the technique? Who's the technique god?
Yeah, what is the number one great power, the technique god? What's he doing these days? Or she, I guess it could be a man or woman. But yeah, we're building the armor in collaboration with the man god. Oh, there's also a few things with the man god to say, which is that when he has that conversation with Rudy, and he's like, I'll do anything. Like, what if there's like the whole destiny aspect, which we haven't talked about. Where actually, first, let's talk about the destiny thing. What do you think about the idea of fate or destiny in this universe and what the man god's saying about you?
It's a bit confusing.
Okay,
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's kind of hard to gauge us from the man god is. We're like, the man god's not that strong, right? Or like there's things he can and can't do. And you're like, why is his destiny strong? Like so far there's been a lot of explanations in this world, and like destiny and fate seemed a bit weird. Like even reincarnation seems to be like scientifically provable now. So yeah, it's all quite weird.
Okay, we'll keep it at that for now. We'll see what we get more about this. But at the end of this, the thing I was leading to is at the end of this conversation with the man god, really, it's like, okay, is there anything I can do to change your mind? And he says that he basically drops the line. It's like, oh, kill Orsted for me, and then he like leaves him, and it's like, oh, okay, now that's like the big call to action. Now he has to fight Orsted, and that was kind of cool. I like that. But then this leads to the actual stuff we were just talking about, which is building the magic armor and getting the man god's advice when building it was kind of interesting. And the man god, again, we've got a few mentions now of the fighting.
Yeah, sorry, I believe. Yeah, fighting god's armor, and then the man god, like, it's mentioned that man god gives him so many tips, and like the guys, and then Rudy is like, man, this is like the most detailed your instructions has ever been, and that's actually really helpful. And the man god's like, yeah, well, I kind of want to see you win. And it's kind of like, it's interesting because they both know they don't like each other, but Rudius is being, and I don't think Rudius is being big brained here, but he's being so like transparent with his actual opinion. He's like, I don't really care about the man god. I just about you, the man god, or said whatever. I just want you to leave my family alone, right? So,
okay. So many things it reminded me of so many things. One thing it reminded me of is when the first conversation he has with the man god after Turning Point 4, and Rudius is like, he's narrating inside his own mind, and he's like, okay, I need to get him to keep talking so I can get information. And then the man god is like, he reads Rudius's mind that usually you're not meant to like hear, as the narrator in the actual meta narrative or whatever. But the man god's like, oh, stop it with all that thinking, and like he like basically cuts through it and can read his own mind. That was kind of funny to me. Well, not funny. It was kind of really cool. Just
yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway. Makes him scary. Him scary. But then I'm like, is Rudius thinking now? Like, is he thinking it like out loud? Is he talking? Like, can it all be read? Does the man god know it all? Like, because the font changes, so that's a bit confusing. It kind of goes into Rudius's head when he's talking, and then anyway, different things. So, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Wait, one more thing about the man god while we're talking about him.
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting back in Turning Point 4 when the old Rudius talks about how don't trust them. I mean, don't I guess doubt the man god or whatever. But he says that I don't think he's ever told me a single lie up until this point. None that I'm aware of, at least. That was kind of interesting because I think
did Rudius say that?
Yeah, he said, I don't think the man god I think he's never said a lie so far. But then the man god, when we meet him again after the diary, like in this conversation we were just talking about, the man god mentions that, I think your future self was operating on a few poor assumptions. So maybe that's one of them, maybe not. But he definitely mentions that the man god hasn't lied until that point. But I guess that's up to us to determine if he did or not.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all my man god stuff.
Yeah. No, there's so much there. But yeah. I mean, I feel like it's just all review after review, and it's happening so fast. Anyway, at this point, I'm thinking about this is the conversation I'm thinking, like, Rudius admits, like, okay, we kind of speed running them building this power armor. He's becoming Iron Man. And then Rudy, like, goes and has to be like, okay, I want to finally admit what's going on. And he says, I'm going to just talk to Roxy about it, because she is, like, my sensei, my teacher, and she will understand better, or something like that. And then he gets into the conversation, and then Roxy's like, hold up, shouldn't Sophie be here as well? And then I think in that conversation beforehand, Rudius said something that kind of made, like, Sophie has, like, a very mature side to her, but also, like, a very childish and, like, sweet side. And, like, he kind of walks in on her, like, being this kind of sweet and saying, like, embarrassing things, as she's, like, saying, oh, Rudius and I will, like, I don't know, like, hang out or whatever. Like, she hasn't done that in a while with him or whatever. She's getting excited and stuff. And then she has to go really quickly into, like, a mature mode. And then it's kind of like, oh my word, okay, thank goodness, like, Rudy, I was so happy that Rudius didn't just hide it from people. So I think that's always an issue, right? And it's just relieving to hear that, he's got people around him that can call him out on that. Like, and that's why I wrote Roxy the GOAT.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole conversation was really great. Like, it's just a really I just remember being very delicate and just, like, thoughtful. Every character perspective is interesting and like, human. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's great. Good analysis there, Bacon.
Thank you.
Well, but the only thing I have now is the battle. I have a few notes on the battle. In the chapter title, firstly, is the big thing. Quagmire versus Dragon God. How exciting. I love chapter title.
That was cool.
Yep.
And the next, this then links on to the next chapter title, where it's like, the Beast Swordswoman versus the Dragon God. I was like, that was cool as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Two cool titles.
But yeah, we start this battle from Orsted's perspective, where, like, he enters this strange castle-looking thing, I think, or strange, I don't know what they called it, some place. Walks inside. We get a visual. Did you see the illustration, I guess, for this? Or
yeah, that was great.
Kind of cool. And he's getting increasingly more suspicious, but he keeps going in. He's Orsted. He can take anything, I'm sure. Then he goes and finds his little box. He opens the box. There's a bunch of smoke coming out of it, and there's a letter, and it's like something Nanahoshi related, and it says the man god or something. And then the signal happens, and the fight begins, and Rudy hits him with a big bolt of lightning, basically. Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
He nukes him. He nukes him.
True.
That's what it sounded like. I like the second. Yeah, but like, you have the lightning bolt, which is massive, and then, like, Rudy's just lays it on thick. I mean, there's so many small details here, but, like, Rudy's just, like, nuking him, keeping his distance, keeping mana flowing through, like, this Gatling gun he's got. I thought it was like a metaphor of a Gatling gun, but they show illustrations at the end, and it was a legit Gatling gun. I thought it was quite funny.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I mean, what else?
I mean, there's a lot. Like,
there's so many things. I feel like we could go through it really quickly.
Like, I remember it's just crazy to see. Okay, firstly, the only time we've seen Orsted fight has been against, I guess, Rudy, Eris, and Perugius. And that was so easy for him, right? Yeah, Turning Point 2. Yeah. There was not much to it. He used his hands, he basically stood in one spot and just, like, punched them and beat them easily. Here, we're seeing a completely different Orsted. He's running, like, crazy fast. Like, I can imagine it in my head, like, Bacon, I'm going to say it. This is one of those times I'm excited to see what they do in the anime, Bacon. I can't wait to see this animated, okay? I hope they do that, because Turning Point 2 is, like, the best. I mean, in my opinion, it's probably my favorite episode of anime ever, in terms of directing, I think. Now, I hope they just can do this fight justice as well, but, yeah, different side of Orsted. He's putting...
Really tough.
It is, yeah. But he's clearly putting in effort here for once. It's kind of interesting. Or at least it kind of seems like it, He's having to fight an uphill battle to get to Rudy. Rudy somehow keeps, like, kind of evading him slightly. It's interesting. And also the first big shock, the first time we've ever seen Orsted kind of shock, is when he tries to use Disturb Magic on Rudius, and then Rudy is able to counter it because he's been practicing with Sylphie. And it's like, whoa, even Orsted is like surprised by this. That's kind of cool. He took like Orsted's own ability and like made it better, or like knew how to counteract it. It's kind of really cool. But I don't know, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. The fact that Rudy is actually injuring him here, like it is working. Like he thinks like, oh, he hasn't been injured at all. But then like when he gets up close and you can see that he is actually bruised and stuff. And eventually I think his shirt comes off and it's like, he's like cut up everywhere and he's just bleeding. And if only Rudy could like extend this a bit more, he might actually win here. I like all the little details in this fight. Very engaging to read. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's super, super engaging. Loved it.
Well, then Rudy loses pretty much. He's biting Orsted's foot. And then
and then I had a picture of that. But then he was groveling and Rudius then this final thing and it's like, but then he's also earning respect. And then like Rudius like asks a lot of questions and then the Dragon God, you're like, oh, will he give his answer? And the Dragon God's like, I can't answer that question. But it's not like full of hate. It's not full of malice. It's like, you feel like it's not because he doesn't think he's worth his time. He's earned his respect. But it's just like, I'm not allowed to. Like, it'd be really detrimental to myself if it did.
Yep.
And it feels like, and this is the beginning of the influence. It's like, oh, actually, it feels like they could work together in a way. I feel like I was kind of thinking. To be fair, as soon as he mentioned kill the Man God, never at this point I'm like, I don't think Rudius is dying. I don't think the Man God's. I don't think Orsted's dying. I'm like, well, what's the other thing? It's like, well, Man God's the final boss, so they're probably going to team up. Like, and then at no point was I like really like thinking, oh, Rudius is going to die. But it was just, I don't know. Even then, I was still like enthralled. And he's like completely out of mana. It's the first time we've seen Rudius out of mana in ages. He's like completely gassed. Yeah, it's amazing.
True. Yep. This was. I'm trying to think. This is probably the biggest fight we've got so far. Almost certainly. Definitely one-on-one fight.
So long.
It goes for a long time. It goes over multiple chapters here. Even. I guess another element I was thinking of when you were saying that was the something that's so cool about Orsted in the first Turning Point 2 is the fact that he's so novel. He's using novel applications of like magic, and two of the things that come to mind are firstly obviously the Disturb Magic, where it's like, whoa, what is this? Like Disturb Magic here is crazy. We haven't seen anything like this so far. And also the gates he summons to like absorb Rudy's like attack, and that's like, whoa, what is this otherworldly like kind of magic? We've never seen people summon gates before. It's crazy. And you kind of get a kind of similar thing here a little bit, where firstly you see not the desperation, but he kind of feels like you're seeing a desperate side of Orsted here, where he's running to Rudy and he's doing this like beast yell and he's like screaming. Like, we're like, well, I can't even imagine Orsted screaming. Like the guy who like never makes a noise. Like look at him, he's like screaming now. And then like he summons this sword. He's like, oh, I guess I have no other choice. And he like summons this really cool sword, and it's like, well, Orsted's so cool. He's got like all this knowledge and magic, and well, look at him. He's the strongest in this world. Oh my god. So yeah, just more little details there before what did they call her? The Mad Sword King or something versus Dragon God. I think it's something like that. Beast.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, what a title. My goodness. But yeah,
the Mad Beast. Yeah. The Man Beast, yeah.
Yep.
Something like that.
But yeah, crazy. Eris shows up. And Rudy it's described, I think, from Rudy's perspective. From she's like in front of him and he's seeing her back, and yeah, it's real cool. But yeah, I don't know. I can keep going. Anything you want to say? I guess.
No.
All right. Well, Eris showing up, and I was very worried because I didn't actually remember if Eris sees the damage that Rudy did to Orsted. Because I was like, oh, I hope she sees it. I hope she sees that Rudy put up a really good fight and everything. And oh my god, he's like damaged Orsted so much. I hope she sees it. And she does. And it's like, she's very impressed and like, I kind of not surprised because it's like, this is Rudy's, of course, that he was able to, force the Dragon God to pull out a sword like this. Like the last time he fought using his hands, but now he has to use this sword. That was really cool. I also like the fact that we get a little bit of introspection from Eris, where she's like, as soon as she saw the Dragon God and saw what happened here, she knew that there is no way that she will ever beat him. she realized that like when she was a kid, she didn't know how tall he was because she had no perspective of how
what a great analogy.
Yeah. But now that she knows how strong it is and how much she's dedicated herself and the people she's seen around her, she realizes that she could never reach the heights of this dragon god. That was really cool because it is building like you truly. It's hard to say from my perspective, because I've read the whole thing, but it does kind of feel like you're building Eris's entire character for this big climactic fight with the dragon god, and maybe in that moment, maybe she will win. Maybe it'll be like a big thing where it's like, through Eris's dedication and resolve, like, and working together. Like she even sets it up like I couldn't beat Orsted alone, but me and Rudy together, we can win this. And you kind of feel like maybe that would be the final battle or like something like that. But no, not at all. She sees him. She keeps fighting, and she knows she's going to die if she keeps fighting to get Rudy to run away to save him. But no, it's not that at all. She realizes that she's never going to beat him. And Orsted is this insurmountable power, kind of like a Gojo Satoru or something, where it's like this person you will never overcome as a protagonist of a story. And it's like, it's I really like it. I like the idea of Orsted and the fact that Eris accepts that she's never going to beat him. Kind of really cool, actually.
Yep.
Then
cool.
Yep, more Destiny stuff.
Question, one quick thing. I like. You're gonna have to go in like 6 minutes, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. Jesus.
Cool.
Very true.
Let's finish off the fight then.
Okay. Yeah. So the Destiny thing is that Orsted tries to manipulate Eris by saying that oh, you care about this man? What about Luke, the man who's destined to become your husband? And it's like, oh.
Yeah, she's like, who's Luke?
Yep. So do you think it's the Luke that we know?
Well, the thing is, right, it is kind of, I just assumed like this was this was basically in this moment, Eris changes her fate in a way. Like, it mentions about these fate things, and maybe like she does marry the Luke we know, I don't know. But I kind of thought, oh, that's interesting. This is the what if Rudius went down the path and opened that door almost, and then didn't try and fight Orsted. Like Orsted's like, and it's described later, his ability to see in the future isn't as good as a man god's, but he's seeing along one path.
Yeah,
and it's mostly true, but he's only got the vague details. And like, it's kind of like she says, "Who's Luke? I don't know Luke. I don't love Luke or whatever." And he like kind of almost dismisses it quite quickly, like, okay, interesting. And that's what I kind of like about Orsted. Like, as opposed to the man god who kind of like is all knowing, Orsted feels like he still lacks knowledge and can be helped and has a weakness, and like he kind of wears his heart more on his sleeve, which I'm just like, oh, anyway, like Orsted's just so cool in this fight, like just how his whole like how he interacts with Rudius and Eris during this whole time. I mean, Eris, yeah, like, and then it's building up to this point where like she has like her special style, where it's like you've forgotten about the peacock man, and it's like how this is something my North God master kind of taught me, and she like throws her one sword, which is like her old sword, which is the one from Roxy's parents, which I was wondering if would come up like in the Eris chapters later, which we may talk about. But here's different. It's like she's like, I'm gonna go with my actual sword, and then he explains. I imagine in the anime I'd be really annoyed because it's like this is like the flashback scene. But here it works really good, but you're like, oh, she's now choosing the sword, which sword she's gonna choose, and like the guy explains it to her. She's like, yeah, I'll take this. She doesn't even really like comprehend the other ones. So like, this one's most simple. I'll have that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's all very cool.
Yep, I agree. We also get a little bit of in this fight here from Eris's perspective. We see the a little bit of the genius of Galfarian, the sword god. He kind of anticipated a lot of the things that Orsted might be doing, and clearly, and also, and it shines insight into maybe this is something that Galfarian had been thinking about for a long time, how to fight Orsted, and he's been doing these things and has bestowed them onto Eris. That was kind of cool, and how like Eris was talking about how what was it? She's basically something Orsted does something, and she's like, yeah, this usually would have got to Eris, but Eris was prepared for it because of Galfarian, and because of that, it didn't affect her at all. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But a big, amazing thing in this fight, Bacon, is the fact that a bit over halfway through, maybe like 3/4 of the way through, it's like you feel the crushing impossibility of fighting Orsted, because in an instant he heals himself to right at the stadium, right at the beginning of the battle. It's like, oh boy, there's nothing we can do to beat this guy. He's right back to the same state he was right at the beginning. And all he did was just heal himself using healing magic. Who knows how many? He can probably do that as many times as he wants. There's nothing you can do to beat this guy. And it's the crushing impossibility of it all. That was great. Then I got 2 more notes on this. One is that when I love when Orsted declares that he's like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to, after I kill you, I'm going to hunt down your children. I'm going to abduct them. And then Rudy gets serious and it's like, at these words, the trembling stopped. And it's like, oh, this is sick. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Rudy's the great man. He's going to save his family, no matter what it takes. But yeah, that was my main thing. Then, Rudius, this is also something, I guess I could ask you I'm assuming you don't remember this, but Rudius notices that Orsted's voice was trembling slightly when he was like talking to him at the end about joining him. That was kind of interesting, but yep.
Yeah, I did actually catch that, I think. I kind of forgot about it, but yeah.
Yep. But I guess anything else for this fight, Bacon, before we, I guess, end this recording session and then start again later?
I feel like there's so many things that if I was reading again, I'm like, that's so cool. But yeah, it's just cool.
True. Cool fight. Probably the best fight in Mushoku Tensei so far, in my opinion. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, easily. Yep. So detailed, so much hype.
Yep.
And just really worked for me. Yeah, that's great.
The payoff for Dragon God Orsted, my goodness. All right, well, we'll be back, guys, in the next recording session, whenever that is. All right, and we're back for a third time. So, Bacon, we were just talking about the amazing fight between, I guess, we had the Quagmire versus Dragon God, and then we had whatever the Eris chapter was called. It was sick, whatever it was.
Hang on, I'm going to Mushoku Tensei. Mushoku Tensei.
You want me to look it up? Let's have a look.
No.
Okay, you're going to look it up? All right.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to look it up.
All right.
I've given up. I died at the first hurdle.
You died at the first hurdle? What, like, you typed it wrong or something? Like,
well, I was typing Mushoku Tensei, and I didn't have it like in my recent thing.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah. Anyway, crazy. That was a fight. So then, I guess at the end of the fight, we should talk about how it wraps up, which is that I guess they side with Orsted. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, she has a special technique with her 2 swords. Did she get a scratch on him?
At one point, he chops like a combo.
Oh, yeah.
But he like grabs it and puts it back on. Yep. No, he doesn't grow it back. Jesus, that'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But yep.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yep. That's the fight.
Then you're like, man, they're lost. I wonder what's going to happen. And then they do the thing that I wanted them to do. And it is, he becomes Orsted's lower man. And then, but then like this whole time, Roxy and Sylphie and Ghislaine are there. And they like, are they like peppering him? It's like a conversation going on and stuff, right? And it's like, it's quite eye-opening for Roxy and Sylphie because I think, by all means, they're both incredibly strong. But in this situation, they are completely useless. And I think it's kind of made apparent to them. Like, what was it? Like, I think there's a comment saying that Sylphie wouldn't have let him go on this if she knew how strong Orsted actually was, which I think is quite interesting. But, yeah.
There's also, to keep in mind, there's like a lore thing. Orsted has a curse of like everyone fearing him. So it's like more impressive that anyone who isn't Rudy stands up to him at all. Just because of the fact that they generally fear him, even if they don't realize how strong he is. Remember that like turning point 2, the damn cow killed itself, ran off the edge? Crazy. Even animals fear Orsted. So yep, the fact they're there at all is pretty impressive, I say.
And Ghislaine, I'll be honest, I can't remember what Ghislaine does, but
she's basically watching Eris's back, I guess, the whole time. I don't know exactly what. That's the way it's described, I think. Yep. She's just chilling.
Big chilling.
Yep. Now the question is, what is Ruja doing during this time? He was there at the last fight. What's he doing? He's not here. Oh my goodness, crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Okay. Well, now we have. I guess Rudy gives up. He aligns himself. He said, "I'd rather join you, than the man god or whatever." And then he gives him like a bracelet, and it's like, oh, what is this bracelet thing? What does this do? But he doesn't hear anything from the man god. So then they go and speak to Orsted, and we get a big lore dump, Bacon. Now, so what do you remember from... Oh, no, wait, firstly, before we say what we remember, Eris also shows up, and Orsted notices that she shows up, and Rudy doesn't, which was kind of funny. But what do you remember from this lore dump here, Bacon?
Yeah, we haven't had like all the Eris chapters though, right?
Oh,
screw this lore dump, Ari.
Yeah.
Where it's all about the important chapters where you're like, it's like Eris Greyrat Part 1, Eris Greyrat Part 2, whatever.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean, this is the fun. You're like, how does this work? Like, what happens? What does Eris do?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, she comes in, like, I think, like, when she initially comes in and sits down, like, everybody's like, oh my word, like, this is like, no one knows how to really what to do. They're like, this is a very different person we're dealing with here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a fun dynamic where Eris knows she's a fish out of water.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else knows that she is like a complete, like, different being here. Mm-hmm. And then Rudius is actually just scared of her and doesn't want to look at her.
Mm-hmm. And she just lives.
Yeah, I like how, like,
without words, actually.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, and then Sophie and Roxy are really nice to her, and it's all very sweet. And then eventually, like, I think it's Roxy comes up to him and like basically says, "Come on, buddy, keep going." And that's why I wrote
that Rudy hasn't said anything.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a funny line where Rudius is like, "I'm no longer Rudius, I'm Woodius." I thought that was absolutely hilarious. I forget the exact context, but I just thought it was hilarious.
Yep.
And then I was like, Roxy is the good lord. So is Sophie. Rude, the Poussey.
True.
And then I like the whole gimmick about Rudy's bad handwriting.
Yeah.
And then I also love that Aisha is still like, she's like the only one not intimidated by Eris or walking on eggshells around her. She just tells her what to do, which is absolutely hilarious. Like, this is the stuff I live for, Ari.
Yeah.
This is like, this makes so much sense. But I don't like it's like Schrodinger's character interaction. It's like, I don't know what Aisha's going to do with Eris.
Oh, we didn't.
But now I do, and it makes perfect sense.
What about Norn, who like could go either way? This is a third wife, oh my gosh, and it's very
exactly right.
And she comes to like her because she's like good at sword fighting and everything. And she's like, well, you can teach me.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah. Then I had Sophie to go. I should have probably actually like wrote down what Sophie did. Oh yes, I think I remember that. So you have all these like from Rudy's perspective, and then he's like eventually like, oh, I want to make you my wife, and then and all this stuff, right? And then what happens later is that is all from Eris's perspective, and she's just really bad at everything apart from sword fighting, and it's kind of made that a panty clip, which is on par for course for Mushoku Tensei, where they love to focus on what they're bad at and like that imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome, the series.
Yeah.
And what I always found really cute is like like Eris does her Eris thing where she's like, I need to help cook, like, and she knows, she like kind of proclaims to everybody that she's going to be Rudius' wife, and then but from Rudius' perspective, he hasn't heard this yet.
Yeah.
And so then she like tries to cut an onion, and she like breaks the board that the wedding gift basically.
Yeah.
And so, but then Sophie, the go, is like, it was really sad, but she didn't get mad at her, right? She's being patient.
Her eye was...
Yeah, like, they got to Sophie. The ever politician. And, yeah, I forgot what her scene was, Roxy was, where she felt bad compared to Roxy. I feel like that was something like that. Anyway, eventually Eris is just, like, outside and she can't do anything helpful.
She went to the university.
Oh, yeah, she could try to be a bodyguard. Oh, yeah, and then she, like, mugs off. She, like, asked the university professor. I mean, that was second-hand embarrassment. But yeah. He feels bad for her. And then I think it ends up with her doing, like, pushing away Aisha's, Norn's persistent bully.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Right.
And that was quite cool.
Indeed. But Bacon, this...
Because it was kind of like...
moment. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Just because, like... it's also interesting because Ghislaine turns up, but then she just takes a room in the town. Okay, this is another thing. I was left wanting more Ghislaine stuff, because I actually... Like, I don't know why, but I kind of just expected her to be more of a character. Maybe she still will be. Maybe I've already forgotten stuff and I didn't know them down, so I don't remember. But I was kind of like, oh yeah, well, she's got her eye patch. Maybe Rudius could like teach her how to control her eye, or something like that.
Yeah,
I just didn't fight like Eris has just surpassed in fighting skill at this point. So she kind of just, she has the moment with Rudius where she's like, Haran, I'm leaving now because she's no longer my care, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I think she's going to go on a big revenge arc to try and kill whoever killed the other people.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of made clear that like, the Boris Greyrats were good to her, very good to her, more than we imagine. Like,
yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
Do we see like an Elite Ghislaine moment?
I don't think so, actually. I know one thing that Rudy mentions is that maybe she feels uncomfortable that Zenith is in this condition, so she doesn't want to live here. Maybe that's why.
Oh, yeah. That was interesting.
Yeah. I agree that there was very, very little of Ghislaine since the last time where she was being very dumb with Galfarian. That was like the last time we were like, oh yeah, that was like a big Ghislaine scene. But since then, we haven't really got at all, I would say.
Yeah. Anyway, Eris does the thing, gets away the bullies. I think his name is Zach or something.
Oh.
And then Norn's like, Sugoi the snare.
Yep.
And like, you're really cool. And then like, she teaches her sword fighting. I don't know if I'm forgetting the important moment that you're talking about, Ari, but...
Oh, we're getting to it, all right? It's after this. All right, hey, I can just say what it is. It's basically, I think the final illustration of the book, which is like, you have all three, you got Sylphie, you got Roxy, and you got Sylphie, and they're all talking together. About like, about what they're like, what they value in Rudy and what Rudy values in them and everything. And then Sylphie, because obviously this whole like chapter has been framed through Eris's perspective, where we're seeing her kind of fail at everything she's trying. Then Sylphie says, and I have a quote here, okay, she says to Eris, sometimes I get the feeling that you think you're not good enough the way you are, but that's definitely not true, okay? Try have some confidence. And I was like, oh, this is so cute. You know, she's paying attention to Eris, you know, the rough exterior, you know, she kind of maybe she comes across as confident to everyone else, but not to Sylphie, you know? Sylphie's paying attention.
Yeah. This was my Sylphie to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moment.
Yep.
No, it's great.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, what can I say? I mean, yeah, no, it's just nice. Like, it's so true. Like, yeah.
Excellent. That is true, Bacon. Thank you. But that's, except for the lore dump thing, this is it, I think. Surely.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, Bacon, I'm going to ask you once more, okay? What is the lore dump? What do you remember? Do you remember anything?
I mean, there's so much. Basically, there's, like, Laplace is split in, like, he talks about, you have the Laplace aspect, and then he, Orsted's actually like 6,000 years old, but he's actually been time traveled in the future from his dad to kill the man god. What else? Laplace has been split into the two people, the technique god, and I think also the fighting god. But the technique god, no. The technique god and, yeah, I think it's the technique god and fighting god. I forget which ones, but definitely the technique god.
Well,
but like,
if you think
they're not consciously Laplace, but he's been like, entwined.
Okay, wait. I don't want to say too much because I don't remember what you know at this point and what you don't. But I'm fairly sure that they would have said the technique god and the demon god, I assume, because there's... Yeah, actually, now that I remember, they definitely mentioned it already. Because he was obviously the demon god Laplace. But before he was the demon god Laplace, he was a single...
He was... yes, he was the great demon lord or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know what I can say. I'm pretty sure they would have called him like a dragon something. I don't want to say...
Yeah, well, he was one of the Dragon Boys. Like, with Orsted. He's from the Dragon Clan.
True.
Yeah.
Crazy. True. All right, well. I'm trying to think. I don't know what... There's one thing that stands out to me here, which I guess I can say it now just to talk about it. Orsted mentions that... Oh no, I'm so worried to say because I'm pretty sure that we've said this already, and I remember reading it, but I
should have made notes on this. Sorry, I was reading through it. Maybe I should read again.
I should say, okay, there's a scene, I hope it's here, it better be here, because I'm pretty sure I remember reading it, which is that Orsted talks about the person, I think if Rudy was not reincarnated, then I think...
Oh, yes.
Okay, you can say, I don't want to say too much for you.
The kid would have died. Okay, the kid would have died due to the amount of mana that, like, the amount of magical power he had or something. Yeah, that was an interesting thing where it's kind of like we were wondering, like, okay, is like Rudy was feeling bad about himself and stuff. So
yeah, and also I think it's kind of interesting in that it frames Rudius's existence as a positive thing. It's like if not for Rudius, then Paul and Zenith would have had to grieve their first child, you know. But Rudius was reincarnated and they got to live, like they got to have this child, their first child, you know. So that was kind of I thought that was a very cute detail to add. Yeah, but that's all I've got, Bacon. Anything for you?
He gave the guy Orsted his diary.
Oh yes, true. And he said,
and also he's like, I have to read this for a little bit, which is crazy.
Yeah, that Orsted is a very. Does he read a lot? You think? Does he write?
All right, he researches. I feel like he absorbs any information for its goal.
Probably.
He's very studious in that regard. So yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll listen to the last part of the audiobook again to refresh myself, because I do.
It's a good idea.
Remember, but Eris turns up without Rudy noticing.
Yep. But of course,
which is interesting. Yeah, of course, Orsted. He sees all. And then he's like in a hut nearby. It's like a chill hut.
Yep. Because if anyone sees him, they'd just be afraid of him. They got to stay away from him.
Yeah. But it's like Eris gotten over it, or does she just act like she's big? Like, is there a thing you can get over it?
I don't think so. I don't think people can get over it. I think it's like an inherent, they will always be afraid of him, but they can suppress it, you know? Like, you could be scared and just, like, not show it.
Yeah,
that would be my...
Yeah, very
except for Rudy and maybe people related.
This would normally be the time if I was more read up on it, I'd have all my theories. I need to make more notes, but as I said before, I was enjoying this too much. So,
that's the great phrase ever made.
It's been five days since I read it, or like whatever.
Yep.
So it's all gone out of the brain.
Yep. It's a bad timing. A lot of moving, a lot of jobs starting, you know. But here we are. Now we're set. Okay, we can go forward with a nice smooth sailing future volumes. Which I don't think we have actually decided what volume we'll do next, but I'm pretty sure there's a good stopping point. But we'll talk about that, I guess.
Our boy, hang on.
Oh yeah.
Hold up.
The comment,
our boy,
Gems.
Mr. Knee Gems. Hang on, hold up. No, I can't be doing this to him. Hold up. Our favorite.
Yep.
Our favorite man, not Mr. Gems. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Mr. Gems. We almost called him the wrong thing, Ari. This is absolute travesty. Yeah, no, he's not Mr. Gems. He said 1617, which, if I got the same amount as I did for the last two volumes, fair enough, because it's like 4 hours long at this point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that'll be okay. I think it's a good stopping point, but we'll see. You know, I'll confirm this later. But my goodness, Bacon, entirely new stuff coming up. That's it. No more anime stuff.
Yeah.
No completely untreaded territory. How exciting. My goodness.
Has anybody said Orsted is cool?
No.
Cool? I mean,
First.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there was that moment in the fight where, like, Rudy's, like, explains everything. And then Orsted is surprised. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's, like, a great moment. Because he's like, my descendants will help you kill the man god.
Oh, yeah.
That's why the man god has sent me. And he's like, I'm not an apostle, but, like, I'm doing this for my family. And then Orsted listens. And then he's like, oh, which is crazy. Yeah.
Yep, pretty much.
And I think Orsted can't say it. Orsted can't say it because then the man god would hear, I assume, or something. Because the man god can see other people's presence, but not as long as it's not through Orsted, right?
That is, well, he can't see
like
the future is what he says, I think.
Yeah, or present.
Or present, yeah, I guess, yeah, true.
Yeah. So, all right, there we go.
All right, so that was volumes 13 to 15 of Mushoku Tensei. Some of the greatest stuff in this series, I'm sure, but it'll only get better from here. I can't wait till we get some of my favorite stuff, okay? We'll have a lot to talk about and a lot of videos that you can watch one day. But with that, thank you everyone for listening. I hope the quality wasn't too bad, okay? Hopefully, I mean, certainly the next one will be much better. You know, I'll have a nice internet connection. I'll be back on my PC. It'll be amazing.
Well, we'll see about me. Who knows? But
I'll make it.
Actually, Ari, what would you say the general state of the YouTube light novel community is like, you know, like
as far as I
favorite
understand,
good
like,
videos.
No, I mean, there's like 3 people, okay? I mean, 2 people, sorry. There's Natalie X Hunter, who does great, like, recap kind of analysis, but not necessarily not thesis-based videos or anything. It's more like recap, like talking about, like, oh, what happened to Zenith after the teleportation incident, stuff like that, for instance.
Yeah.
Then there's, like, the other one I'm thinking of is the other person that Natalie collaborates with sometimes, which is called Espiritu, I think, is their name. But I haven't watched much of his videos. But in terms of, like, the actual video essays, like thesis-based ones, I think it's mostly just smaller channels is what I've seen. And it's very rare. You don't see much, at least I don't see much light novel analysis, which isn't just like a recap or like a volume-by-volume review. Yeah, so... You know, there's also EliteAri, for instance. You know, he makes good Mushoku Tensei videos. He made a poem once, and it was probably the best Mushoku Tensei video he'll ever make. But, yep.
They'll say that.
Yeah, well, it's just...
I've watched that one.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Haven't watched the Norn video yet?
We're getting close. We're getting close to it.
Okay, so she
upcoming
dies in like a couple in like this next volume. Okay,
no, maybe I just chose to analyze some parts of her character, not all of it. You know, how can you encapsulate all of Norn's character in one video? It's impossible. But yeah,
true.
And if I was like a smarter reader with the light novel, I'd be able to tell you what stage we are at now. I know that the light novel, like I think the web novel was like, it had like an infancy stage, and then like an adolescence, and then like a young adulthood. It was like weird different stages of like Rudy's life.
Oh,
I don't know.
I have
no idea.
Well, right.
I guess we've seen him in his grandpa stage and turning 84, but yeah,
that's true.
Yep. Anyway, enough dilly-dallying. Thanks. Leave your comments, guys. We love the comments, okay? We read every single one. Even Bacon probably does, even though he probably shouldn't, okay? So,
No. Everybody loves me. Everybody loves me. Shout-outs to, hold up, N-Guy ND92 for explaining all the character heights. Love that.
Nice.
And shout-outs to, L-I-1V for saying Dillo mentioned. I responded to that one because Dillo is the GOAT.
True.
Though I did have a little look at the early volumes of the last one. It seems like we have a GOAT contender in that regard. But I'm a Dillo boy. But then we also had Mr. Dreer, which was the name of the Trent.
I think his name is Beat, isn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, something really cute.
I love Beat. Is so funny. Just the fact that he
waves.
True. He like lives in their like windowsill or something.
They have like 3 pets, I think, and that I think includes the horse.
Yes, I think so.
Which is pretty cool.
True.
Who else? Reading redundancy and other side stories after Mushoku Tensei is a requirement and not just optional in my opinion. Have you read those?
Yes, and they're my favorite stuff in Mushoku Tensei. Besides a certain old Dragon's Tale thing we'll talk about one day, that's probably my favorite thing.
What?
Yeah, I love...
Is this like a side story?
Don't look it up. Do not look it up, Bacon.
Cool.
It's related to the main story, but it is kind of like... Well, I don't want to say what it is, but I like it a lot. It's really good. It might... Yeah, well, I'm not going to say more than that. We're definitely going to do it. Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Unless you get to the end of the story,
so,
I'm done. I don't like the end. No.
All right, giving everybody something to look forward to. So far this year, the best thing I've watched off the top of my head has been Shogun, right? And that's why I gave the highest number so far. And I would say Mushoku Tensei definitely top 5 of 2024 so far.
Wow.
That's where we're loitering. That's where we're loitering at the moment.
Fantastic, Bacon.
It's competing with Mushoku Tensei Season 2, Part 2.
That's great.
That was also, I think, that was an 8. I think I gave it. So that was good.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, Challenges. Challenges was great.
Challenges?
But yeah, this is where we're at.
I don't even know what Challenges is.
It's, do you know the meme of Zendaya on the bed with 2 other guys?
Yeah, maybe if I saw it. I don't know. I don't think so.
It was like the Tom Holland cuck memes. Basically, it's a
oh yeah,
very,
I do remember that.
Yeah, it's like a very it's like a tennis movie where it's like around 3 characters, which is very fun. Would say it's good. We are talking about it on this year's podcast, so
look forward to it.
You'll see it in 4 months.
Yeah. Okay, and with that, goodbye everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
And we're back one more time. Believe it or not, I bet you thought we were done, but no, we got more to say.
Oh, we're ready, guys. We got so much Mushoku Tensei content for you.
we were looking at the stats and all the videos, and we're like, these things perform well, and that's the only reason why we do these things.
Yeah.
And if I ever make a Mushoku Tensei video, please give me all the views. I deserve it. I need money. Anyway, Villain Saga doesn't pull its weight. No one reads the manga.
That is true.
No one wants to know when it's ended. Big sad. Actually, no, I shouldn't complain because I actually got that's done very well. Be thankful for you. Have big. Do you remember what we were talking about last time, Ari? We were talking about gratitude.
True.
And that's what Rudy has. All right. So I felt kind of bad because Ari was like, was not sure exactly what he could say and what he couldn't say, right? And so I was like, okay, I'll go back and re-listen to it. I'll make some more notes. And I made so many notes that I like tripled the length of my current notes on volume 15. So here we go. Rapid fire. I'm going to fit this into half an hour because you guys have been sitting here for so long. All right. First things first. Rudy big scared of scary Eris. That was quite funny. And then they had a duel. And then Eris moves so fast that she knocks him on the head. Because he basically submits to her and says, I wouldn't want to win anyway. And he has like this moment where he thinks that if he did actually try and fight her, Eris would have like probably let him win anyway or something like that. Because so this was like the Giga Brain reading through the lines move, Chad move. And then she was like, well, I'll probably find someone else to love. I could dump you anyway, which is cope. But I mean, who knows, Eris may be able to do that. This gets onto my theories later. Because I remember pretending like I didn't also read volume 16 already, okay? I wrote these notes at the time. I'm sticking
I believe you.
Okay? Don't let the people listening know, okay? That's not happened. I've only reread volume 15.
I won't tell anyone, Bacon.
The next thing was a great moment between Ghislaine and Norn, where like Norn's like, oh, why do you really speak so much respect to my brother? And Ghislaine's like, Rudius is a hell of a lot stronger than me. I mean, he won the respect of the dragon god after all. And then Norn's like, Osugoi, my brother, big Oni-san is so cool.
That was so cute.
You know, all this stuff. It was very cool. I made an erroneous claim that Ghislaine did not get enough. She has small moments here, which are very fun. I rescind my comment.
You know,
we always want a bit more Ghislaine.
That is true.
But it seems like Ghislaine's actually a very simple character, but she has a very nice moment to say.
I should say there was an interesting framing of Ghislaine as old in these kind of ending sections, where Rudius kept saying, she's probably in her like 40s or something, and she's probably, but she's still so good and keeping in shape and everything. And I was like, man, it is kind of
he's in shape.
Funny not funny. It's what do I feel? I feel kind of a little sad that I'm like, these characters are getting old. Then it's been like 10, 15. No, it's been like 17 years, I guess, since the start of the story. And, a little sad, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, to avoid going on tangent too much, but I've definitely hit the age where I'm now looking at my parents getting older, and I'm like, oh man, like, it's not like, and they're nothing bad, you just notice things, right? And you're like, it's kind of like, I feel like during high school, you don't really think about them getting older, right?
Yeah.
Then you kind of go to adulthood, going your way, and then you mention stuff, whatever, and you're like, yeah, I guess they are going to be grandparents soon, because my sister's going to have a kid soon, right? Whatever. Hashtag doxing myself. But anyway, they're going to be grandparents soon. That's kind of crazy, It's like, they're almost 60. That's crazy. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of one of those things. And there was another thing with Lilia actually mentioned, which I didn't bring up, and you wouldn't have reread, but it's a very similar thing. He made a comment about Lilia when he met her for the first time. But introducing that contrasts to Zenith, who hasn't aged because she was in that crystal. So,
yeah, sure.
And Zenith's maybe a bit younger, but it's common on how Lilia's. It does definitely looks older. It's easy to get caught up on the whole Paul thing looking awful, but he looks awful for other reasons as well. I forgot. I'm rapid pacing this.
Yeah,
I forgot that Rudy's hand was healed. That's kind of
yes.
His hand was healed by Orsted, right? Or am I making that up?
Yeah, he did. He used the whatever god. I don't know if it's god tier healing. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if my name started with M and my name rhymed with crueler, I may make a comment and be like, this is awful stakes and bad writing because, like they resolved it too quickly and it's unsatisfying, therefore objective bad. But I've already forgot about this. I don't really think like, it would have been cool to see him having to like really deal with the lack of having a hand. I almost feel like a more interesting thing to do would be like say like we go into the future where like on volume 23, Rudius has like lost all his magical ability and he's like 40 years old and now he's having to think his way out of this predicament without his magic. that feels more debilitating. It's like you're starting your Metroid game again. You got to get all the power crystals or whatever, all the superpowers that you get.
Yeah.
You kind of get knocked down. I feel like that's happened a load of times in you hit the climax and the protagonist gets hit down and it's taken away their special powers from them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, getting rid of a hand isn't the biggest thing for Rudy.
Well, it depends.
Here we go. The wise old hermit.
Oh, wait a minute. About the hand thing,
this is two sides of conversation.
There was one thing in the end of Volume 14 with the fight with Atof. It was kind of cool how the hands came in handy, where he got disabled, basically was paralyzed by the electricity, but the one thing that could work was his hand, because it wasn't like made of muscle and stuff. So that like let him stay in the fight a little bit, which was kind of cool. Anyway, continue on.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah, maybe true. That's cool. Good point. Next thing is the white old hermit is the good, right? I feel like we didn't touch on the fact that, there's a big scene with Eris. It's not necessarily something that I'm like super invested in here, but I think there was some nice moments here where it's like very clear. I mean, it's what you'd expect, Eris is very unique in the fact that she's very athletic and, had high stamina, and that was kind of made like a big deal of. And the meme of the wise old hermit, that's funny. I dig that to the bank. Cool. Next thing, Orsted being surprised at Rudy knowing his curses and what his curses were was cool. That's very nice. I like how Orsted has supposedly 4 curses: the one where everybody hates him, the one where the man god can't see him, the one where he can't fight at his full strength, and another mystery one. I actually can't remember if that was talked about now. Anyway, but it turns out the second one and the third one, they're fake, because the second one is an ancient dragon art they casted on himself, which then reduces his mana capacity, which means he doesn't want to go all out. Which is kind of cool that he used so much mana on Rudius, but it's take like 30 years for Rudius to charge back up. It took him 4 days. And that was like really good, quick maths from Rudius. Actually, interesting. It's interesting his math is so sharp on that, because basically it's a 10 times effect, right? So 1,000 times effects, right? It's by a factor, a magnitude. What is it called? Like when you go up by 1,000,
order of magnitude.
So basically, order of magnitude. Thank you, Ari, with your mathematical abilities. So yeah, if you go from 10 days and you times that by 1,000, then that goes to 33 years. The reason why I know this is because 1,000,000 seconds is 12 days, but 1,000,000,000 seconds is 33 years. That's crazy, isn't it? Right, that's the difference between 1,000,000 and billion. So anyway, I had a quick moment that I was like, oh, that math does actually check out.
Well done, Bacon.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, because Rudius has like a big mana pool, so it makes sense. Thank you, Ari. All right. Also, next biggest thing I forgot was that Rudy just reveals his old life before Eris, which is crazy. Like, I can't believe, I'm so glad I reread that, because that's actually massive. Like, at least for me, like, it shows you getting much more relaxed about this thing, and he's hopefully not going to hide things as much. But then it's kind of course, it's in front of Eris, and Eris, like, clocks it and understands, but doesn't really understand, right? Like, because the term reincarnation, while it means something to Rudy, means something to Orsted, doesn't mean something to Eris that much, right? Yeah. And like Eris is someone who doesn't, she's not a big thinker, and she may just kind of say, well, Rudy's is kind of weird. And then there's an interesting moment at the end of the conversation, which we may get back to later if I make a note on it, and if I forget, then lambast me. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was really crazy, honestly.
Oh yeah, Cutton.
No, I just it's crazy because I didn't remember it. I feel like that has to also be the case in the web novel. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I guess we'll see where this goes. But I didn't remember that at all, that she finds out at this point.
Yeah, well, I find out that he's reincarnated, and if you remember from last video, anybody that's paying attention, I said to myself, I was like, wow, that each girl is going to have, each one of the starter Pokemon are going to have a little bit of nugget of information. I forget what Sylphie's was now, actually. I forget. Yeah, because she knows the Nanahoshi thing, right? I think that's the big thing, right? Like, she knows they're speaking different language and comes from different space. Next one is Roxy, where Rudy's just like, my friend, or like, imagine a dude, right? Just a random person, definitely not me, right? And he did all these things, and I explained my life story to you. And then now Eris has this reincarnated thing, and so they could maybe piece it all together, and then they do a mega evolution somehow between the three of them, and they combine like Goku and Vegeta. Anyway, and then next thing is Orsted saying, I don't see the future. I see history as is ordained by fate. So let me just read my notes here. Rudy assumes that this is a lower tier version of the man god's ability. But to me, it seems that since fate in this world is and destinies are kind of malleable, Orsted can see the future of someone's history, and the history of them, the future of someone and the history of them according to their current path / timeline. Now, I did say, I think Volume 16 adds some extra context to this, but I haven't seen Volume 16, okay? Okay, I've not seen it. I've not read any of it. For some people, this could change often, but for others, like Rudy and like Sylvie, they only have certain paths they can go down. Thus, Eris marrying Luke is likely an outdated past. That being said, maybe something comes between Eris and Rudy in the future down the line. Maybe, I'm not sure, maybe something happens and it's still the future. But it seems because Rudius has less paths to go on or whatever, like, it's like, Orsted basically has the out-of-date version. He hasn't updated his future sight yet. He can only see so much in the future by looking at the past and knowing the pace and knowing like the streams of the Steins Gate. That's
I like this
Steins Gate when I said it earlier. All right. Yeah. Well, and because I haven't read Volume 16, it's on the money. Oh, it's definitely right. Rudy causing Orsted to lose a lot of mana, something precious to him, was a nice consolation prize, but a bit ironic since that, now Rudy's kind of tied himself up.
Yeah, anyway. Now they need that mana.
I thought it was kind of anyway, I thought it was kind of cool because it's like, in the fight, as you mentioned, it's like he just like slaps his arm back on, draws out the sword and all this thing, like, oh my word, we did nothing. Then Rudy's like, he's actually, no, Rudy, you did something, man. Like, yeah. Okay, there you go.
It was pretty...
Orsted saying that...
It shows the level of like of a battle it was from Orsted's perspective. Like, he never does this, so... Crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah. Orsted saying that only a true blood, strong dragon god could beat the man god. This is what Orsted says. But it feels this is like a cultural myth, not a real thing. That's what I'm suspecting. I don't think this is something baked into the fabric of the universe that only the true, because that's why he got sent forward, because he's a true blood, strong dragon god. But that's not. That's what I'm thinking. It's a reincarnation. It's time travel in the future, which I guess is kind of basically. I mean, do you like kill yourself? I don't know how. Like, if you can only reincarnate if you die, so maybe they try and kill themselves with this art or something. Yeah, this reincarnation thing, I feel like I got a better grasp of it now. But yeah, it's time travel into the future, which makes sense because that's basically what reincarnation is. For us, if it exists in this world, you don't know how long you're going to be dead for. You'll just kind of turn up again, born as something else without memories, right? Now I think this reincarnation definitely feels different to Rudius's. I feel like they are different things because I don't know who is casting what spell on Rudius to get him. Like where did they do the dragon art on him? I haven't figured that out. I get that this kid's body had the Laplace aspect, but I don't know how Rudius from that world. I have my theories, but I don't know exactly. But yeah.
Okay. What I was going to say is just a small detail. If you go back to Turning Point 1, or I guess it is technically Turning Point 1, the post-teleportation incident when Rudy's meeting with the man god for the first time, he asks if he was the one who reincarnated him into this world, and the man god says, oh, reincarnation is more a thing of the dragon god. And it was like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. You can go back and it's like little details like that, But yep.
Oh, really?
Yep, he mentioned crazy reincarnation of the dragon god.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah. Yeah, so we kind of know how they pop out the other end, but we don't know exactly how it starts. But yeah, I have my theories on how, because also all the examples we've had are from people from this world going to their world's future. Say Perugius, say Orsted. Did Laplace also he's going to reincarnate, right? So, and lots of the other people, right? They're all from this world going into their future of their world. We don't know if you can go from one world to another, but I'm piecing this together.
We can bring watermelons.
Watermelons? Oh, yeah.
Seedless watermelons.
Sorry, I got it. Yes, seedless watermelons. Dude, I forgot to mention that earlier. Yes, and they've also brought a bottle cap. Anyway.
Yep.
We talked about how Laplace was mentioned casually before, by old Rudius, and he's like, Laplace, my buddy, maybe I should talk to him. Not my buddy, but yeah. I kind of forgot, like, with all this Laplace talk, I'm a certified Laplace hater, right? Ooh. I was like, Perugius, Pierogi, my boy, you're a bit too heated. But I remember my boy Rigid, and what Laplace said to him, all right, we got beef now, Laplace. Okay, I'm coming for you, buddy. No remorse. And then this is the Demon King, Laplace. Technique God, he seems like a Giga Chad, so we'll let him slide. But yeah. Okay, here we go. We got Laplace. This is my whole thing about Laplace. Get ready for some rapid fire.
Oh, yeah.
Laplace is the pitiful shell of the once demonic Dragon King. Direct quote from Orsted. He used to be part of the ancient dragon folk. He's one of the 5 dragon generals underneath the first dragon god. And the first dragon god was Orsted's big papa, right? So I got a bit confused there initially because I was like, how? Wouldn't Orsted hate Laplace? But then actually, it's kind of sorted out. It wouldn't make sense, but it doesn't need to work there. And so, under the first dragon god, he defeated him with the other 5 dragon god generals, whatever. But and then he wanted the to kind of show off, not to show off, but to teach his techniques to everybody. And at this point, we don't know Laplace as a bad guy necessarily. Like he's not morally judged yet, basically. But what happens next is that then he was so Laplace was the second dragon god, Demon King, and Orsted inherited these techniques. Not sure if it was from Laplace or from his dad, actually, now I think. Anyway, I can't remember that detail. Small detail.
Yeah.
But Laplace, as the dragon demon god, was defeated by an apostle of the man god, who was the fighting demon god, the golden knight, Al Detbreen. Al Detbreen, he's the guy with the other cool Iron Man armor, magic Iron Man armor, right? He had the gold armor.
Yep.
And so Laplace's soul was split in 2, and he lost his memories. Okay, classic. Can't be grabbing onto those lost memories, right? Everybody's losing their memories now. Did our boy... One thing I didn't... Did Orsted reset his memories as well? I don't think that's mentioned, actually. Because he forgot it, but he found out about it. Yeah. He forgot them, but he found out about it again through the writings on the wall and in the Berserker continent or whatever. That's a big thing. Okay, because Rudy's on top of this, right? Anyway, the 2 split souls were the demon god that loathed humanity beyond all reason. This demon god was stripped of his draconic essence, wants to slay all humans, and has enormous knowledge on the magical arts. And he united all demon kind to kill humanity because he hates humanity that much. So that's the second part is the technique god who has all sorts. Yeah, that's the famous Laplace. Then there's the technique god Laplace, which isn't called Laplace, but he's the one who made the 7 great powers. He's stripped of all magical powers, but he has sought the strength to kill gods. Still possesses all skill, knowledge, has a vague but powerful compulsion to pass on his knowledge of it to his followers. So yeah, it's kind of split the 2 parts of Laplace that he's kind of known for. But then I don't think there's an inkling before that he did hate humanity. But anyway, I'm not sure how that got. The technique god still has that thing where.
Oh, sorry, there's a delay here. But there was the
Hello? No. I'm stopping for you.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think the obvious. I don't know if you've picked up on this. Surely you have, I think. Which is that it's splitting it into the 2. Like he had a hate for the man god, and now he's splitting into hating man and hating god, or something like that, right? I think that's what's going on there.
That makes so much sense. Okay, yes, because he loathes man god. Okay, but
he still has that hate toward whatever the man god, but now it's split into he can't have his coherent mind because there's 2 souls or whatever, or something like that. Yep.
Yeah, which is interesting because the split soul, because it's mentioned later that you can't split the body and the soul unless there's something immutable about them. But so that's why you have to have a little bit of yourself in the soul in the body you're reincarnating into. I mean, that's what the first demonic dragon god did. Yeah. So Orsted was sent into the future before Laplace turned against his father, and before Laplace became the second dragon god. Probably, I think Rudy gives another explanation on how they could have been buddy, but that's the one I wrote down. Laplace fled and survived the destruction of his own world. This is big. It's like a little thing that slid in there and really doesn't clock on. And I don't think I fully understand this yet. And I don't think you want to explain this to me yet. But basically, I imagine more like a Minecraft world. We got a 6-sided die, and there's 6 worlds on this thing. And in the middle is the man god. And basically, one side of this die world that we're on, I don't know if it's a literal die, but we're in the human world at the moment, right? But we got only one flat surface, and then the other sides, we got other stuff. And that was the ancient dragon god side. That all got destroyed. And so they all move to one other side of the die. So this then leads to my other thought is that the human world, our world, sorry, not the human world, our world, Earth, is on another side of the dial somehow.
Interesting.
And we have like, I don't know. But it's mentioned there's 6 worlds. And so I'm not sure if I'm getting confused. I feel like if I looked into it more,
I think the theory is, I think that's a decent theory.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see.
Cool. And inside the cube is the Rubik's Cube.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Anyway, reincarnation is an ancient art that you take before your soul and makes you, that takes your soul and makes you reborn into the future. But the body and soul are indivisible. And so you need some of yourself in that vessel. You can only take over the soul on conception. So you can't like pop into them later. Perugius is among the teleporters from the future, lends credibility to my theory about his castle in the sky knowledge. Like I'm thinking that, okay, well, Rudius got incarnated with his memories. That's a big thing. I just put that together now. That's massive because that's the big thing. Eris lost their memories. I think Orsted as well. Maybe not. But this also led to create that it's not perfect. So maybe Perugius was also from the other world, but he doesn't remember that he was like, he had like a little bit, like when he was a child, because he was a child when he got reincarnated, right? So that he maybe watching Castle in the Sky when he's younger, listening to the banging tune, ending, and then woo, 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 woo. And he's like, Dola, I love Dola, and then woo, woo, woo. Oh, I mean, that might last kind. So maybe that's my theory about him.
Very interesting.
Of course, Rudy could have used other means to get here because magic, of course, can do mostly anything. So this is my theory that Rudy maybe came by a different type of reincarnation. But he must some aspect that like, but he must have the Laplace aspect, so that supports that. He must be like reincarnated by some dragon folk. This is the thing, like he's not like a dragon, like he's like one of the few reincarnated people that's not in a dragon body, right? If Orsted who's in a dragon body, you have Perugius who's in a dragon body. I don't know who Laplace is going to go into, but Rudius does have part of Laplace in him. That would suggest that he does have some of this dragon art that helped him to do it, but for like a very different type somehow, because Rudius doesn't have any dragon in him as far as we know, right? He's double human. So I don't know if it's like exclusive or how that gets in this guy. How did they like? Yeah, maybe it's in like the Greyrat or Paul or Zenith. I don't know. Like it must have transferred over somehow. They kind of maybe spread out. Maybe they got a bit of dragon blood in them, but kind of like how all like a little bit Irish or whatever. Anyway, okay. So next, so that was my theory. Sylphie. Okay, next thing is that Sylphie also has one of these aspects, which is a cool thing, but she's got white hair now. We also didn't mention that Rudius also had white hair, but it's temporary. But like Sylphie's is not temporary, so that's kind of interesting. But she's not a reincarnation of Laplace because she's a woman. So there are hard things, hard and fast rules that you can't change your sex. So that's very transphobic. Less counts from Mushoku Tensei.
Yeah.
And so actually maybe not. Gender essentialist, maybe not. I don't know. Okay. It was a decade before he is reborn, I expect. So Rudy could still be Laplace, even though it seems pretty sure that he's not. And it's going to be like 80 years or whatever, because I haven't read volume 16 and I do not know that information because it hasn't been revealed yet, but it seems like that's what Mr. Orsted is doing. All right. We're getting to the end of this, Ari. We've got 4 minutes left. I'm smashing through it.
All right.
Okay, next thing, we had a great moment where Orsted's just like, here's a dagger, and it's like, worth $1 billion dollars.
Yep.
And he's just like, and Rudy's just like, dude, this is worth so much that no one can give me the money for it. He's like, oh, take some of these then. Like he's so casual about money. Very funny. We love Orsted. Orsted stands. Eris,
only material things.
Not this. Yeah, exactly. I feel like I asked something later that you want to explain to me later. Anyway, I'm busting through this now. We had the Eris, when Eris like intuits, is like, says, you're not different, are you? Like Eris has an interesting way of computing things. She just has like one concern. She's not concerned that she's from the other world. She just concerns it's the same Rudy that she knows and loves, right? And Rudy's like, no, I'm the same person I was now. I'm just kooky. And she's like, cool. And then she also makes an interesting comment. She says, do you want me to not say this to Sylphie and Roxy? And Rudy says, yeah, please don't. Which I think is interesting. Which means the Pokemon talking together may not come together in the end. But anyway. The thing is, right, as soon as one of these girls, as soon as Bulbasaur or Squirtle hears it, they're going to put it together real quick, because they'll chat it. Interesting, we go to Eris' perspective. All of Eris' dreams are about fighting Orsted, and then now it's like she's fought Orsted, and now it's a bit weird now.
Sure.
Eris, when she's looking at herself in the mirror, she says she has a mouth that always, when closed, seems to scowl naturally, which is interesting because every single time you talk to her, she's going into like, it kind of reframes as every time she goes into a neutral emotion, she just starts scowling. She's got that strong resting bitch face, basically. This makes her look scary, but she's actually just trying not to. She's not showing any emotion, which is just an interesting like clarification. Then you had the great interaction between Roxy and Eris. Eris states that oh yes, okay, this is when she's going to get her job, right, at being a guard. Eris states that basically she's like, I'm in a magic place. I need to talk about the magic stuff that Rudy's taught me in school, right? Because that's what I did at school. I didn't learn sword fighting. I learned maths, arithmetic, English, fire magic, all this stuff. And then Roxy assumes that because Eris doesn't mention her sword fighting, that she would be offended if she had to teach under like another sword master and to pass on her skills. It's just a very funny, like both of them overthink, like assuming things of the other incorrectly and leading to a worse outcome. Very funny.
Yep. We hate miscommunication.
The principal lost his hair. Feels bad, man. No, this miscommunication, it was cute. It works. I would spend time trying to think about why I feel that way because I normally dislike it. I think it just doesn't end in massive drama, right? It's like a nice quirk. I remember what Eris's name is. She's the Berserker King Sword, all right?
Okay. Like Guts.
That's the thing. She's not like the Beast King Sword or whatever. She's the Berserker. Yeah. Oh, she's like Guts. Oh. That's right. I was trying to do the Guts theme. Anyway, and then she also stands in front of Rudius, not behind him. That was makes her different. And then you mentioned earlier that there's this nice moment where Sophie says like a quote about like you'll find how you are or whatever.
Yeah.
And then finally we have a nice Eris and Zenith moment. Happy time of like Zenith, like Eris intuiting what Zenith is saying, which is very cute.
Yeah, it was so cute. I think if I'm remembering the details correctly, when she walks in and she like doesn't. She needs to like walk in with respect, but she doesn't quite know how to do it or something like that. That's what I remember from that. It was cute.
Yeah. And there's a thing, not from Volume 16, because we haven't talked about Volume 16, where she tries to curse the then she doesn't have a dress on, and she's like, oh, which is, anyway. Yeah. Anyway, and there's another Zenith moment where she like starts punching Rudius for like getting a sick, no, it's not a sixth. He's not Henry VIII yet. Sorry, third wife. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. All right, how long can I extend this
we can go
like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So my overall concern, which I kind of mentioned earlier and I forgot to talk about, is that we've had a massive. Anytime you play like an open world, the first time you play it and you're getting into it, you're like, oh my word, this world's massive. Think about the first time you played Elden Ring, like this world is massive. Every time you start a new novel, a new series or anything, this world feels massive. You don't understand like how big it is, right? And over time, that slowly gets smaller and smaller and smaller as you basically, because the lack of knowledge, your brain intuits that as size. Basically, you fill up in your brain like, oh my word, there's so much out there, right? And the same with this one, and that's what makes it really fun to explore. Like, oh, what's over here? What's over here? And it kind of fills in the details. But the thing is, as soon as you fill in the details, you have that knowledge, and it kind of crystallizes, and it then naturally feels more small. But what's happened here, right? We've had all these things where it takes forever to travel places. Well, now we've got instant teleportation, right? Now we've got, we are meeting the strongest people basically in the world, right? There's been a massive power creep, like a teleportation creep, like a massive de-scoping of the world, naturally because you're meeting the top of the top, you're becoming friends with the strongest people, right? Now you do have other people like Laplace is still really strong, and you have other people to meet, but it's like Orsted is literally the strongest person you ever see a fight. You're meeting Perugius, right? All these big names are kind of being said and stuff, right? And I haven't really felt the effects of it yet, but that's just a natural thing where you got a world so focused on this exploration that then you get really invested in this part of it, and then naturally you kind of go to the, like, you think about it before and you think, oh, well, like, I forget the name of it, Beneo Village,
Buena Village,
whatever it's called. Like, you think about those times where Buena Village is so small and like tranquil. When you think about, when I thought about them, you have this massive, like, you have less questions now, more answers. And we're still getting good questions, still things to be intrigued by. But yeah, it's just an interesting phenomenon. And I think it's not necessarily that I wasn't expecting this to happen. It has happened so quickly. I think that's almost like what we mentioned earlier, where twice now, like, we've had like 2 big lore dumps that don't have caveats of like, oh, I can't tell you now. I have to talk to you later about it, kind of.
Yep.
which is really interesting because we're only halfway through the story, and I'm just thinking, well, who's going to come in again? Like we've also met, all the sword king, all the sword emperors, or sword gods. Sorry. I guess we have the dead god and the technique god. Is the technique god alive? Yeah, but the demon god Laplace isn't alive. So we've got some of the great powers to meet. But also they're still the strongest, right? And anyway, I would say that like something interesting, like volume 16, which I haven't read, has posed some interesting thought stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going now. This is cool. But anyway, this is an interesting quirk I've thought about this. So it's the nature of the story where you get more answers and the world starts feeling less large, just because there's less unknowns. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so I would say, firstly, I agree in one regard, which is the teleportation instead of traveling. Because I agree that I love the traveling stuff. Like, obviously, all of, like, volumes 3, 4, 5, for instance, are just traveling. And then there's even a lot of traveling to get to, like, the Greyrat in volume 12 with Lionelize. And, like, those are some of the best stuff for me, just, like, traveling and seeing all these new places. And we certainly have gotten a lot less of that recently. So that's one thing. I agree, definitely. Second, there's actually some, I'm not going to mention it, but there's a certain element, there's something else which we'll talk about later, I guess, one day, about characters and how they're important and stuff, and we'll talk about that later. But another thing you said is about thinking back to the Buena village, kind of, and thinking how open-ended everything was, and now how many answers you have. This kind of ties in a little bit to that video I made about the poem one, where it's like talking about the early days in Rudius's life and just seeing there's so many things you get like mentioned at that point, and like little like just very small details you hear and you're like, oh my gosh, this relates to something like 20 volumes from now, and how exciting. And there is like, of course it is like the downside of, okay, now we have so many answers, like what else do we have to go? But it is really cool to go back to the beginning and to hear those little things and then think about how long later in the future you actually do get answers to all of these. It's very rewarding and kind of nostalgic, at the beginning. Sorry, headphones just died. All right, I'm back. Another thing is just to reassure you that don't worry, there's plenty of new locations and new characters and new people, and there's plenty of stuff yet to come. So we're not completely done. There's a lot to come.
Yeah, because we got to go to the 6 other worlds, right? We got to go to the 5 other worlds. Actually, the 4 other worlds, because one of them was destroyed on the 6th cube. It's a square world. Flat Earth is a wrong. Actually, cube. Not the
center as well.
Yeah, the center.
Yep. All right. Well, anything else, Bacon?
No, I don't think anything else. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Keep the comments up. We are looking at the stats, and these videos are performing quite well. Not the largest views, but lots of people are watching for a long time. So thank you all, and I hope this doesn't scare everybody off by being 4 bloody hours or whatever we got it at now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I also hope that people are still finding it interesting. At least what I'm saying.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they're excited for this one because it's fully original content, Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm being positive, so I feel like that gives you a lot of grace, right?
That is also true. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone, and we're done for real this time. This is the end of this discussion. So see you next time.
Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome back. We're coming at you again for the 5th recording, and I've actually made notes on all of volume 14 again, and turns out that okay,
no, we're done.
Sorry.
Okay, bye.